J-Bo Nation, shaming of Jay. He's not a dopey dumb bitch. He gets laid. The court jester, the court DJ. It's time to dive into the case. To the case.
All right. Good morning. Welcome back.
Morning.
What's up, y'all? Morning, Jay.
Good morning, Bob. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I set my alarm for 7:15. Fell back asleep till 7:30. Popped up in horror. Got up, and I'm still recovering, man. Still recovering from New Orleans. There's no question about that. It'll take me a week. Full week. Oh yeah. For sure. And I went to bed early last night, but I was telling you I had kind of a disjointed night of sleep, popping up, having trouble falling back asleep. But I slept hard though, So
yeah. Did that sound effect not work? Did you hear that or no?
I heard it for a sec.
Okay.
It's not good. For me, it's not strong. It's like breaking up.
Shit, that's my stupid mic. All right.
Morning, everybody. We love you guys.
Thanks for being here.
Day 8. Let's go. So yeah, I'm thinking Caitlin Albert today for sure.
Yeah, man. I was thinking as I'm driving to drop off my son at school, I was like, how, and you've brought this up before, and to me it really hit with these witnesses yesterday. How is the state going to prove that she did that? If she was in the car and if she hit John with the car, that she did it on purpose, that this is a murder. Like, I assume, Bob, the closing is going to be like, the defense is going to go over their theory, right? And then be like, even if you think that she hit him with the car, where is the evidence? At least they haven't presented it to date to me. And like yesterday, the witnesses were like, the one witness, like, they were so like lovey-dovey that my wife was like, "Why aren't you like that with me?" Like,
right.
I mean,
yeah. I mean, I've been there the whole time, man. I just, I mean, we know what their theory is. Their theory is that, like that they were broken up as of the 26th and that she was steaming and, like, I don't know if they were going to try to make it into like some kind of drunken rage killing or I don't know. I have since the beginning been like, this has been overcharged. I don't think that they're going to be able to prove that. And I agree. I have seen nothing in any way, shape, or form that indicates intent at all. So short of them having and the science isn't going to change it.
Right.
I mean, if they can establish that he was hit with the car, fine. But that's still manslaughter to me.
Right. Exactly. And not only do we have testimony, we have the video of her going up and like kissing him, and I try to be like, I'm not trying to be in like a, in a bubble.
I mean, the evidence is what the evidence is,
Right.
I mean, I saw it. I mentioned it immediately, it was like, all right, well, because it looked genuine. Like none of it looked like me when I come up to Ali, like anywhere, like the exact same thing. I kiss her, give her a hug, show her affection because I love her. And, that's me every single time I see her. So I don't know, man.
When I see people like, we talked about Joe Jackalow, was like, what is going on with this project? And then I saw yesterday, Cheryl Mack McCollum, who I greatly respect. She's like, when is the prosecution going to start their case or something to that effect? And I'm like, this is not someone who is like, on the side. These are people who are objectively looking at this. And when I see someone like that from Cheryl Mack, I'm like, damn, like really, like.
But then like I jumped on, like I was in the gallery, the prosecutors like Facebook group, and like Brett had posted something like, so, what do y'all think? Like, he's like, he starts with, she's definitely guilty. And then like, what do y'all think? And then, it's like I'm reading through there. It's like guilty of sin, guilty of sin. And there were a few
Wow.
people that were like, so I don't know. Like, am I just not seeing things that other people are seeing? I consider myself to be pretty perceptive, and I've tried cases for a long time and not seeing it, man. I don't know. But like, everybody perceives things differently,
True.
everybody. So maybe we're just kind of the mindset that, I don't know. We're gonna do a poll today. I'm pretty sure where our poll is gonna come in, but I don't know. I like that. It surprised me a little bit. And my thing is, does the fact that they charged her with second-degree murder with that overcharge, is that going to set the tone for the jury in terms of them not even contemplating manslaughter? Like, if they don't have definitive evidence that she hit them with the truck, like, because we know the defense is going to be putting things on. You're keeping an eye on that, right?
No, I thought you want me to keep it up.
Yeah, definitely.
Us?
Hold
Oh.
on. Yeah, you're better at that shit.
All right, hold on. Do you want me to share my screen? You want me to throw it on mine?
Yeah, throw it on yours.
All right, so
yours. Especially because I'm gonna have Allie sit in at some point.
All right.
And I know she's not good at it.
All right, let me see here. All right.
Actually, she's not bad at sharing stuff. She surprised me sharing things.
All right, let me fix this now. So yeah, we are not good. We are not live yet. We didn't miss anything.
Well, I knew I was asking you early enough. It's 7:53. Judge Bev's not starting that early.
For the folks asking for an Ethan update, thank you for asking. Actually, I think you got a member. What did
I got?
Joanne.
We got Marianne, super sticker, $10 hollow. Thank you very, very much. A little early morning gift.
Thank you, Marianne.
And then Joanne,
7 months.
7 OG, like literal OG.
Yes.
Always give her a straight up OG.
For the aunties, Ethan is he's doing okay. Unfortunately, this is the shit that pisses me off. They didn't get the PIC line in. He got the PIC line in. It was too late that he had to stay over again at the fucking hospital. So,
oh my God, really?
So today he should be discharged in the morning, and then they're gonna have a nurse go to the to his mom's house and set it all up and do the things, and he'll finally be home. So he's been in there since like Monday at like 4. So I'm just glad.
Did they try to put the PIC line in at the hospital, and then you were gonna bring him home with it in, or were they gonna
No, yeah, they
put him home and come to the house?
No, so it's like a whole procedure where they put the thing in his body, however they put it in his body at the hospital, but it was too late for them to, I guess, to then get a nurse at the house to show him how to work it and set it up.
Is a PIC line not like an IV?
It is, but it's like internally put in, like it's like a procedure. Like he described it as, he was awake, they numb him, and then he could feel like the thing going in his body, basically. I don't know. So yeah,
horrifying.
I just feel bad that he's been in there. He's 50. He just wants to get home, and it sucks. He can't, he can't play video. He's not gonna be able to play video games at least for like the first 2 weeks, where he can't move. They cannot move this the way his fingers are set up, because like it has to be set up so like his ligament. There's so much.
That's the worst kind of injury to like be laid up on for a gamer. It's like if you're stuck in bed like for 2 weeks and you can't like it. So your kids are still in school, yeah?
Oh yeah.
Is he out of school because he's got that?
Yeah, well, he was like devastated because he's got to have like a home. He's got to set up teachers to come to the house. He can't go in because he has to be. I don't know how many times they have to like put, but basically it's like better to put the antibiotics in and make sure he doesn't get an infection. Yeah. Better be safe than sorry. So yeah, he's got to, and he's only got school's almost over, which is good in one sense, where they should give him any shit about like classes, like completing stuff. Like they should be able to.
Well, plus with like online, they
don't do that. You would think after COVID, you could just be able to like, but no, there's no online portion. I mean, he'll be able to get his, but he has to have someone come in, and this is America, so I gotta get approved to like you know, the insurance and the, you know, you got to get all the shit approved to make sure. So it's been a whole thing, and God knows what this what this bill is going to cost. 4 days in the hospital, all this stuff.
Dude.
Luckily, you know, for folks who don't know, I quit my job of 18 years to do this. And what I've been doing is Cobra, which is expensive, but it's basically you get 18 months where you can keep the insurance you
Thank
had.
God.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't start like a new, because the insurance that's available, like Obamacare or what,
4
it's
nights overnight.
it's not great. So it's gonna be a big bill, but it's not gonna be as bad, I think, if I tried to find a, you know, one of the,
Yeah.
you know, things that are out there. So waiting for that. That's gonna be what I assume is it's gonna be whatever my, however many thousands of dollars my you know, it hits a point where it's like you don't have to pay after
Right.
that.
You got to hit your deductible. And
Right.
then, like, yeah, same like as when Scarlett went in over like a few months ago. She had like a just brutal asthma attack, like a
Yeah, right.
scary one, and we couldn't get her oxygen levels up. So, like, Allie's like, we got to bring her. And she ended up staying like 2 nights, you know, and it was pricey, man, you know, and it was like they didn't even do a surgery. You know, that was really just them giving her nebulizers and coming in constantly and doing the things that they do. But
Right.
it's going to be healthy, dude. It's definitely going to be healthy. I'm glad he's okay, though. That's the bottom line, you know. That's
yeah, it could have been like he did. It could have been he could have lost. He literally could have cut off his finger. Like, luckily, it wasn't that bad that he didn't lose a finger, and hopefully with the you know,
or yeah, like lost it and they're like putting it back on type thing.
Right.
Oh my God. That would be
So
brutal. Mia Bito. Speaking of happy news, Mia Bito gifted 5
nice.
TD membership.
Thank you, Mia.
Thank you, Mia. Appreciate you so much. All right, let's pull up while we're killing a little time here. Let's pull up the list again. Let's guess who else we think might be popping up today.
I heard there might be 2 Alberts today.
Yeah, my friend who's great, she was thinking it might be Jen. I'd say, I don't know. Like she's like an all-dayer, you know?
Yeah, I would think.
Yeah, and I'm talking about Jen McCabe, obviously, but I you know, I can't see her being called on especially like, because strategically, if you've got a witness, you know, the defense is going to be coming hard at, like, you don't want to put them on, do the direct, and then give the defense counsel like a full night to prepare based on things that she said on direct, and then come back fresh in the morning. So I'd be surprised if they called her today, to be honest.
Yes,
So
Susan says news is saying Chris Albert. I saw that too. So that will be that's going to be interesting
for sure. So yeah, there's McCabe. Dizzy says so much. that was her little note for Jennifer McCabe. Yeah, Matt. Let's see. We still got Carrie Roberts. She'll be interesting. And then yeah, any of the Albert people will be very interesting. Yeah, so it definitely seems like the way that they're structuring their case is that they're going to do all the way, like, the lay witnesses first, and then before they start getting into all the experts. So, which is interesting.
Well, what's interesting to me is, like, you would think these witnesses they had yesterday are just puff, you know, easy witnesses to get out what you're trying to get out, and they couldn't even do it with them. Like, can you imagine a witness? And from what I saw, Joe, because someone was like, these what is the deal with these, you know, law enforcement? And he said 2 of the law enforcement testified they weren't prepped at all, which is not surprising to me. It seems like no one is prepped for this from the state's end. No one has been prepped. It could be wrong, but just based on how he's asking them questions, either they don't know the answer to, they give a different answer than he's expecting, I mean, Bob, like the thing you pointed out,
Devastating.
Devastating, where he says, not what did he say? At the time,
I didn't know it at the moment.
Right.
It's like, which basically shut him down from being able to ask the next question. You can't say I didn't know I didn't know something firsthand personally. I learned of it later. It's like, because then it like takes away his observation.
Right.
Because then obviously, if he learned of it later, then he didn't observe it. Right. I mean, he had to found it out from somewhere else. And then I was like, oh yeah. Gee, now that you mentioned it, I saw that, but like, can we trust that? I don't know. Yeah, that was crazy, man.
So I mean,
and that was happening like on repeat, right? I mean, it's like everybody.
Yes. It's like almost like not only are the witnesses are not prepared, but he is not prepared, because that is a major part that he should have.
Well, if they're trying to prove first degree or second degree homicide, I mean, like that still doesn't really go to intent, but it certainly like delivers a huge blow to the concept that this thing is a frame up,
Right.
So I don't know, man. I don't know. Kimmy's blessed, coming through. $5 holla. Hello, Bob and J-Bo Nation. I hope everyone's having a great morning. Thank you, and we hope that you guys are having a great morning too.
Thank you,
really do. So let's see. We got just a little reminder, y'all. Make sure that you're liking, sharing, subbing to both shows. We appreciate that very, very much.
My mic isn't working with my sound effects, but we have some in here, and this is for everyone who has been so awesome supporting us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yes.
We appreciate it very much.
Latka. There he goes. Yeah, I was late with my tweet this morning. I'm always late with that tweet. I should send it out in the. So Dizzy sent me a message bright and early. Missy Mayhem is going to be streaming something interesting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's going to be streaming our I think the 48 hours of the Garcia case.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, they shit all over us in both of them, but they're still pretty fun watches.
That's awesome.
The Dateline one is like, like Allison was super pissed because the way they like they take things out of context, like this thing where like, Ali, and we all know Ali's a swearer. So like we allowed them in the war room, like when we were preparing for trial. Like that was one of the things. That was how I negotiated. It was like the first 2 hour ever Dateline was our Dateline on that case. And like there was a scene where we had the whole team was around, and our team was like 12, 13 people, and somebody said something that was like either good news for us or something shocking, and Allie's like, shut the fuck up, like in Elaine style, like
like push Jerry,
she push it,
get out.
Exactly. And they frame it like she's like screaming at somebody, like telling somebody to, and it was shitty. I actually ran into the producer at CrimeCon last year, and like I gave him the business. He came up to me, like he was like, because I had made a comment about their Idaho 4 coverage, that thing that they did last year about the Idaho 4 thing, where they had Coffin Daffer on there making this statement that they had definitively found a Google search of dude Koberger like buying the knife, which was like it would be huge, it would be like stunning. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, that's like a massive leak or something, or I'm like, that's new. And I made it like a critical statement of because like to me, I don't think it was substantiated, like I don't know how that it could be, because it could only be the cops or the lawyers, and there's a gag on that thing,
right?
So so I said something about that, so he came up like pissed at me, and because I made a critical tweet. And then he came, and I came back at him. And I'm like, well, I'm like, since we're talking about shit that we're pissed about, like that shit you pulled with my wife, because I'm always backing Allie. Oh, I heard the noises.
All persons have any business before the Honorable Beverly Kennedy, Justice of the Norfolk Superior Court in the County of Norfolk. Do I name, give your attendance, you shall be heard.
Norfolk.
I say the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This court is now open. You may be seated.
22-117, the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed. Can I have counsel identify themselves for the record?
For the Commonwealth. Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, Mr. Lally.
Good morning, Your Honor. Laura McLaughlin for the
Good
Commonwealth.
morning, Ms. McLaughlin.
Good morning, Your Honor. Alan Jackson for Ms. Reed.
Good morning, Mr. Jackson.
Good morning, Your Honor. Elizabeth Little, also on behalf of Ms. Reed.
Good morning, Ms. Little. Good
Good morning, Your Honor. David Yannetti for Karen Reed.
morning, Mr. Yannetti. Good morning, Ms. Reed. Good morning, jurors. I have to ask you those same three questions. Was everyone able to follow the instructions and refrain from discussing this case with anyone since we left yesterday?
Yes.
Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Were you also able to follow the instructions and refrain from doing any independent research or investigation into this case?
Yes.
Everyone said yes or nodded affirmatively. Did anyone happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case, even inadvertently, since we met yesterday? Okay, so I am going to see counsel at sidebar for just a moment. Most people said no. I will see the juror who raised her hand in just a moment.
Oh, what'd
Wait,
she raise
what?
her hand about?
Was that about like seeing coverage or stuff? What was that?
I don't know.
Uh-oh.
I missed it. The media's got like all perked up back there. Look at him. This chick's
Look,
like, oh.
These guys dunky. Did you guys see that? One guy had Dunkin'. He had a nice iced coffee there.
Oh, I love it. I'm an iced coffee guy. Every
too.
day when I go down to make my coffee, it's always iced coffee.
Oh, see, I don't go that. Sometimes I'll make it with the Keurig with the ice, but typically if I go to like,
They started making like iced coffee specific pods. So I guess they're like allegedly stronger.
Really?
Because yeah, I guess the concept being because I put ice in when I'm making the iced coffee, which of course all melts.
Right.
And then I re-up with the ice when it's done brewing. So then it turns into iced coffee, and it is not watered down, so it must work. But yeah, it'll say like iced on it. At first I was like, this is a big old scam, because they do charge more for it.
That's Keurig. I'm going to look into that.
Keurig, yeah, they have there's a couple of different few different companies that make the iced specific the iced coffees. So let's see. What do we got? Yeah. Somebody had made a comment where I see it. And I think she had made a comment yesterday too that, oh yeah, Mr. M, Dayline did us dirty. They did but to be honest, going into that case, and we really thought we were going to win it. Honestly, like even throughout the course of the trial, like we just felt like the science didn't support their timeline, and so, but when we ended up getting a conviction, we knew that they were gonna because then our guy turns into the convicted murderer. So then they do what they always do with defense attorneys. They make us look like shitbags. So it was like, it's kind of the nature of the beast, man, as far as defense attorneys go. It's a tough gig, man.
You're changing that narrative. I see it almost every day, folks who say that,
Those are fine.
Oh.
And to begin. So, Mr. Lally, your next witness, please.
Yes, Your Honor. The Commonwealth will call Mr. Christopher Albert.
Oh, boy. Here we go. I also got this, Bob. Some people said not enough office space, so what would you say? Oh, it's too low. Damn it.
I didn't hear it.
They're so low. I'm gonna have to work on this.
I heard at that time it was one of the great Flair quotes.
Yes.
With Jennifer Aniston.
Let's give the court and jury in the case now here for the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Anytime you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name?
It's Christopher Albert, Albert.
And where do you live, sir?
I live at 22 Maple Street, Unit L, Canton, Mass.
And how long have you lived there?
Almost 2 years. Sorry, go ahead.
And how long have you lived in Canton?
Since 1974.
And so pretty much your whole life.
Pretty much since I was 4.
And prior to living in Maple, where did you live in Canton before that?
7 Meadows Ave in Canton.
And how long did you live at 7 Meadows?
From 2001 to 2021, about 20 years.
And who, if anyone, do you live with now?
I live with my wife, Julie, my oldest son, who just came home from the Navy, my middle son, Colin, and my youngest son, Dylan.
And how long have you and your wife, Julie, been married?
Roughly, gosh, you're going to kill me. 21 years, around 21 years.
You mentioned you and your wife, Julie, you have 3 sons?
Yeah.
And how old are they?
My oldest is 25, my middle is 20, and my youngest is 16.
Now, do you work, sir?
Yes, I do.
What do you do for work?
I'm self-employed. I own a small pizza shop.
What's the name of the pizza?
It's called
D&E.
D Pizza.
And how long have you owned that?
25 years this March.
And prior to that, did you work sort of in the same industry?
Same industry pretty much my whole life.
And does your wife work?
She does not.
Does she help out with the D&E pizza shop?
She does some of this behind the scenes stuff. Yes.
Now, when you lived on Meadows Avenue, did you have occasion to become familiar with someone named John O'Keefe?
Yes, I did.
And how is it that you knew John?
So he bought the 1 Meadows Ave, the top house. I don't know exactly, maybe like 2017. So he became my neighbor. And I guess just from me driving by his house and coming home, I saw him, would wave to him and stuff. And that's how I initially became to know who John was.
And you mentioned he bought the house at sort of the top of the street. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's if you're coming off Pleasant, you take a right down Meadows, it's the first on the right.
And then on Meadows Ave, about how many houses are on Meadows?
Well, between us or on the whole street, you mean?
First down the whole street and then between.
Yeah, so roughly on that whole street, I would say there's like close to 30 houses from top to bottom on both sides.
And then how about in between 1 and 7?
So there's 2 houses between mine and John's.
And your house is both odd numbers. Are they on the same side?
Same side, yeah.
Now, you said that that's how you initially came to know John O'Keefe. How did your relationship sort of go on from there?
So over the years, like he was friendly with some other folks that I was friends with. So we maybe be out occasionally and bump into him, but he would also come to my pizza shop a lot. He would take his nephew, Patrick, in my pizza shop a lot. So it was not uncommon for him to stop by a couple days a week. Usually just grab a slice.
Now, you grew up in Canton, correct?
Yes,
And do you have any siblings?
I do. I have 6.
And what are the names of your 6 siblings?
So my oldest is my older brother, Brian. I have a sister, Kathleen. I have she's older than me. And then I'm next in line. And then I have a brother, Kevin, then a brother, Keith, Brendan, and Timmy. 7 of us.
Where is it that you sort of fit in that sort of?
I'm the 3rd oldest.
Now, your older brother, Brian, what does he do for work?
He's a Boston police officer, or he was. He's recently retired.
And your brother, Kevin, what does he do?
He's a Canton police officer.
And John O'Keefe, were you familiar with what he did for work?
Yes. Yeah, I knew he was a Boston police officer as well.
Now, sir, if I could turn your attention to January 28th, 2022. Do you recall that day?
Yes, I do.
And do you recall what day of the week that was?
It's a Friday, I believe.
And were you working at the D&E pizza shop on that day?
I was.
And at some point in time in the afternoon, who, if anyone of note, sort of came into D&E?
John came in that day with his nephew, Patrick.
And you recall, what did they get that day?
I think they just got 2 slices of pizza, if I recall correctly.
And what, if any, conversation did you have with Mr. O'Keefe as far as plans for later in the year?
So he asked me if I had any plans that night, and I said, unfortunately, it's Friday, and I'm working pretty much till close. And I said, but it's my nephew's birthday, and I know a bunch of people are heading out, and I was planning on meeting up with them later when I got out of work. So I think I said to him, I said to him, I'll shoot you a text later if you're around. Maybe we can hook up.
So in that sense, how would you describe your relationship with Mr. O'Keefe?
Oh, it was a good relationship. Yeah.
Would you consider yourself friends?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, pushing forward on January 28th, about what time was it, if you know, that you sort of closed up shop at?
So the shop stays open till 10. I know that I left sometime a little bit before 10. I had my wife drop me off some clothes it was like a ritual. Because those nights are tough for me to get out early and go home. So she dropped me off some clothes, and I remember just changing quick, washing up a little bit, and then leaving. So I think I left before the store actually closed a few minutes.
Now, during the time or prior to you leaving the pizza shop, what, if any,
And we also have a nice $5.99 special for a slice and a Coke, just so you know.
Asked where I was. I said I was still working. And he said something like, why don't you talk to the boss, see if you can get out of there? And I just said, I'm married to this place. It's tough. I'll text you when I leave. And then I shot him a text, I think, when I got down to Waterfall, and I said, where are you? And go ahead.
and where did he say that you were?
He was at CF McCarthy's.
Are you familiar with both of those establishments as far as CF McCarthy's and Waterfall?
Yes, I am.
And with regard to your pizza shop, where is CF McCarthy's in relation to that, and where is Waterfall?
So if I was sitting at my front door looking out, CF McCarthy's would be to my right, and Waterfall would be down the street, diagonal, maybe like 200 yards on the opposite side of the street.
So both sort of walking distance from where you work?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, your home on Maple, where is that in relation to those businesses on Washington Street, including your own?
So Maple Street is like, probably from my pizza shop is maybe like a 5-minute walk. You know, it's not far. And a little closer to Waterfall. So maybe it's like a 7-minute walk from D&E and like a 5-minute walk from Waterfall.
And are there any sort of, in the area where you live, is there any sort of like town buildings or anything like that?
Yeah, so I kind of live behind the library. Like you take a left on Maple, and the library is like 2 buildings after me on the left-hand side. And then the town hall is a little further down on the right.
Did he call it a
Is,
library?
the library that's around where you live, is that the only public library?
That's the, besides what's inside schools, yeah, that's the only public library.
I think he said library.
And so,
He's
again,
walking.
I'm sorry, but what time is it that you leave D&E to go to work?
Just before 10, maybe like 9:50-ish.
And as far as meeting up with people, who is it that directs you to go to Waterfall specifically?
I think my wife said, are you coming down? Are you there? She was down there,
What
so
does D&E stand for?
I had a conversation with her. I think that's how I headed down
Play a
there.
fun game. Let's
You went
guess.
there to meet your wife,
In the
correct?
Yeah,
chat what
yeah, she
D&E
was down there.
stands for.
And you've
Ready,
been to the
go.
Waterfall before?
Yes.
And so when you walk into the waterfall, where did you go as far as, if anyone did you recognize me?
So it's pretty much when you walk in, it's just kind of like open. And my wife was there. Matt was there. Matt McCabe was there. Jen McCabe was there. My sister-in-law, Nicole, was there. My niece, Caitlin, was there. I think when I first walked in, that's who was there.
And you mentioned Jennifer and Matthew McCabe, is that right?
Yeah.
And how do you know them?
Well, I grew up with, I didn't grow up with Jen. She's younger than me, but she's lived in Canton for a long time. My brother Brian is married to her sister, Nicole. So I've known her pretty much my whole life.
And you were testifying earlier about some of the people that you and Mr. O'Keefe sort of knew in common. Would Mrs. McCabe be one of those people?
Yes, yeah.
And when you walk in, relative to the establishment, whereabouts were those people situated?
So they were on like a table that was close to the bar. It's like set up. They have like 3 tables in a row, and I think we were maybe either in the middle or the next table to the bar.
So with those 3 sort of tables together, if you know about how long a table are we talking about?
I would say they're about a 6-foot table.
And was this a low top, high top, or something?
It's like a high top.
And located close to the bar, is that correct?
Yes.
What, if anything, do you recall from that evening as far as entertainment within the waterfall?
There was a live band that was playing to the side.
About how close to your table was the live band?
Oh, within like 6 or 7 feet, probably.
Fair to say, pretty loud in there?
Pretty loud, yeah.
And when you walk in, where do you go in reference to sort of the other people?
I go right over to the table, and I think I walked right over, said hello to them, sat down.
And what, if anything, did you order when you got there?
I ordered a beer.
And did you eat while you were there as well?
I did, yeah. I was starving. I didn't eat all day, so I ordered some food, appetizers.
And throughout the course of the evening, what is it? You're at a bar, so you're drinking, correct?
Sure.
And what were you drinking?
Miller Lite.
Is that sort of normally what you would drink when you go out?
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that initially when you get there, it's yourself, your brother Brian, his wife, the McCabe's, and your niece Caitlin. Is that correct?
No, my brother Brian wasn't there yet. Yeah, it was Jen McCabe, Matt McCabe, my wife, Caitlin, and Nicole.
Thank you for correcting.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry.
So at some point shortly after that, or at some points, who, if anyone else, arrives and sort of joins your table?
So my brother Brian and a gentleman named Brian Higgins, they came and joined us.
And is Brian Higgins, is that someone that you had met previously?
Yeah, a few times.
And how did you know him?
I don't know how I initially met him, but probably seen him around. I knew that he worked as an ATF agent. I knew that he worked inside the Canton Police Department, so I think I knew him from that, just being around.
Fair to say you knew him sort of through your brothers, either Brian or Kevin or both?
Yeah, that's the only way I met him.
And about how long after you arrived was it that they arrived?
I would probably within like 35 minutes, roughly.
And what, if anything, did you know about sort of where they had been prior to or what they had been doing earlier?
So they were in New York at a police officer's funeral. They went there for the ceremony, and the snowstorm was coming, so they decided that they were going to drive back early to beat the storm.
You mentioned, as far as going out on that particular evening, what was that in reference to?
So my nephew, Brian, it was his birthday.
And so when you say your nephew, Brian, whose son is that?
So that's my older brother, Brian's son, Brian.
So Brian Jr.?
Brian Jr., yeah, we call him Brian Jr. Yeah.
And was he present at the waterfall that night?
He wasn't. No, he decided that he didn't want to go out.
And when your older brother Brian and Mr. Higgins come in, where is it that they go sort of in relation to the group?
So they walk in and they come directly over to the table.
Now, at some point later in the evening, who, if anyone else, also joins your group or your table?
So John O'Keefe came with Karen Reed.
And how did you know Karen Reed at that time?
I met her a couple times. She also had been in the pizza shop a couple times, and driving by the street when I would come home, she would be outside One Meadows.
And just to be clear, when we're speaking about Ms. Reed, do you see her in the courtroom today?
Yes, I do.
You just identify as to where she's seated, or
She's sitting right over there between the two attorneys.
just has the record reflect identification of the defendant.
Okay.
Now, prior to Mr. O'Keefe coming into the waterfall, you had mentioned some text communications with him, is that correct?
Yes.
And what, if any, other communications did you have with Mr. O'Keefe before he got there?
I don't think, nothing before I got to the waterfall?
Not before you got to the waterfall, before Mr. O'Keefe got to the waterfall.
With Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes.
Just that where was he, or where were we going? Where was he going to be?
What, if any, communication do you recall in regard to who was there or who was going to be?
With Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think at some point he said, who's there? And I said, my brother Brian. I said, Brian. He said, your brother Brian? I said, yeah, Brian and Brian Higgins are there. And he said, where's your brother Kevin? And I said, I have no clue. LOL or something.
And when Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed come into the bar, where is it that they go upon coming back?
They walked directly in, came towards our table, just a striked up conversation. I think John came over to my wife and said hello to her first, maybe. And then just kind of got with the group, started talking.
Now, fair to say Mr. O'Keefe knew your wife, Julie, as well?
Yes.
And how would you describe their relationship as far as?
Good relationship.
And when Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant come over to the area where you and your wife is, what, if anything, did you observe the defendant?
Well, when they came over, I think they started talking. At one point, when they first came over, the defendant came in with a glass underneath her jacket. And I thought that was kind of funny, and I laughed about it and made a comment about it.
And what, if anything, did you notice sort of about the glass? What was in the glass? And
It was just a tall, like, cylinder glass with some clear liquid in it and a lime.
and that was under her coat when she came in?
Yeah, it was like she pulled it out.
If you know about what time was it that Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed came in?
So I got there close to 10, I would say 10:45-ish, to the best of my recollection.
And following sort of the blows and all that kind of stuff, as far as after they first came in, where did they go from there?
I think the defendant sat down, and I think well, John went to the bar and got a beer.
And you know, is that sort of what John would typically drink?
Yeah, Bud Light, I think.
And you mentioned that the defendant sat down. Where does she sit down in relation to you and your wife?
I think right next to, next to my wife.
Now, with regard to just how would you describe sort of the general sort of tone or demeanor within the group at the waterfall that night?
It was fine. Everyone's just having a good time.
So no arguments, anything like that?
No, not at all.
And specifically between Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant, what, if anything, did you observe between them?
I didn't notice anything abnormal.
Now, if you recall, what was Mr. O'Keefe wearing on that evening?
Blue jeans, baseball hat, and kind of like a pullover light sweatshirt type of grayish garment. I don't know what you would call it. It wasn't like a hoodie, and it's like a long sleeve shirt.
Is that what he was wearing when he walked in?
Yes.
At any point in time, did you see him with like a jacket or anything like that?
No.
Now, as far as your observations of Mr. O'Keefe, what, if anything, did you observe about that clothing as far as any tears or any shovelment of it at all?
No, I didn't notice anything. It looked fine to me.
And as far as Mr. O'Keefe, his person himself, what, if anything, did you observe as far as any injuries or anything like that?
Didn't see anything. Looked normal.
Now, after Mr. O'Keefe went to the bar and got a beer, do you know where he went from there?
Just came back over to the table, started chatting people up.
And when you say the table, was that sort of your area or was there a different area?
No, the same table, the same high top. Some people are sitting, some people are standing.
And as far as sort of this length that you described, about 6 feet or so of that table, if you recall, sort of where were people situated around the table?
I mean, I was sitting at one point because I was eating, so I was sitting in one seat. My wife was sitting in another seat. Matt and Jen was sitting in another seat. I recall John standing a lot. I don't think he sat at all. I think Karen was sitting at one point, probably like situated near, maybe across from my wife or next to my wife.
Now, as far as Mr. O'Keefe was concerned, do you recall anything specific that you discussed or talked about while you were there that night?
No, nothing in particular.
And throughout sort of the course of the time that you were there, what, if any, discussion was there as to going someplace or wanting to go someplace after the waterfall?
So we have this like little ritual that when one of my nieces or nephews turn 21, we go back to the pizza shop, like, you know, after hours and turn on the oven and make pizzas and stuff. And there was talk about going back there. Miss Reed asked if we could go back and make pizzas up at my pizza shop a couple times. And then there was some talk about maybe after, someone mentioned going back to my brother's house after.
And just to be clear, your brother's house, which brother?
My brother Brian.
And where did your brother Brian live at?
34 Fairview.
You familiar with that address?
Yeah, I used to live there, grew up there.
So prior to it being your brother Brian's house, was that your parents' house?
My parents' house, yeah.
So that's where you and your siblings essentially grew up from the time that you moved to Canton?
Yes.
Now, as far as going over to your pizza shop to make pizzas, things like that, is that something that the defendant talked about once or more than once?
A few times.
And you referenced sort of this ritual when one of your nieces or nephews turned 21, and it was your nephew Brian Jr.'s birthday the following day, is that correct?
Yeah,
Was he turning 21 at that point?
I think so. I can't remember exactly if he was 20 or 21. I think he was turning 21 though.
So in relation to this evening of January 28th, that the ritual that you were talking about, when was the last time before January 28th that you had done that?
Trying to see who else turned 21. Can't remember exactly. I know it was recent. I remember doing it. I just can't remember the date.
And that's all I'm really asking, sir.
Yeah.
Was it recent to January 28th?
Yeah, it was sometime before that, but within like a couple of months, I think someone turned 21. Maybe we just went there.
And so what, if any, conversation from your end as far as, obviously it's your pizza shop. So
Yeah.
what, if any, conversation from your end was there in reference
To doing that night. So we were doing a weight loss competition, me, Matt McCabe, and my brother Brian. And we had like 2 more weeks left in it. And we do it, every year, it's like a charity, we do it. And the proceeds go to like scholarship funds. So I said no, because we were doing this weight loss challenge and I just didn't want to give in and, you know, eat pizza 2 weeks before we were weighing in.
And your wife, Julie, how long was she at the bar for?
Not long when I got there. She probably was only there for maybe 35, 40 minutes. She had a migraine. She wanted to go home, so she left.
So she indicated she had a migraine and she was going home?
Yeah, she didn't feel well.
And was that before or after Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed arrived?
She left after they arrived. So then she must have left later than that. Yeah.
Now, later on in the evening, what, if anything, did you buy for the group?
So at one point towards the end of the night, I bought a round of fireball shots for the group.
And who partook in that, if you know?
I don't remember exactly. Probably half of the people there took them. I don't remember everyone. I wasn't paying attention.
And when you say sort of towards the end of the night, when was it that things sort of wrapped up?
I think they called last call at right before 12. Pretty much right before 12, it all started wrapping up.
And as far as the group that you were with at the high top table, who, if anyone, from that group left first?
So my wife left first. Obviously, she didn't feel well. She left earlier. Then Brian and Brian left. My sister-in-law left. Matt and Jen left. I left probably second to last. I probably left last with John and Karen, or right around the time that John and Karen left.
And do you recall, as far as you're leaving around the same time, do you recall walking out together or seeing them outside, or where is it that you recall sort of leaving at the same time?
My best recollection is I walked out roughly the same time, and I walked out the building, and I come up Washington to the right, and they were either shortly after or shortly before me, and they walk up to the left.
And when you say walk up Washington, did you walk home that night?
Yeah, I walked home.
And when you came out of the bar, what, if anything, did you notice sort of about the weather or what was going on with that?
It just started snowing. It was cold out, and it just started snowing. The ground had like a light coat.
Could you still sort of see the street? Or
Oh, yeah, you can still see it.
And you mentioned you walked out towards Washington, and Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed did as well.
Yes.
And which direction? Did you go in the same direction, different direction?
So when you come out the building, you have to go to the left in order to get onto Washington. So I come out to the left and then go to the right onto Washington, and they would go to the left onto Washington.
They were sort of walking
Opposite directions.
on Washington.
Yes.
Now, as far as throughout sort of the course of the evening, did you have occasion to see sort of what Mr. O'Keefe mentioned, that he went to the bar and he got a beer? Was that the only beer that you saw him having, or did he have more than one?
I'm sure he had more than one. Yeah, I saw him with more than one.
So you saw him, but essentially what I'm asking is throughout the course of the evening when you saw him drinking, other than maybe the fireball shot, you saw him just drinking beer?
Just beer. Yeah.
And as far as Ms. Reed was concerned, what, if anything, did you observe her drinking throughout the course of the evening?
Just a clear liquid in a glass. I assume it was some sort of vodka drink.
Was that the same glass that she had come into the establishment with under her coat, or was it a different glass later on?
I believe it was the same one.
So you leave from the waterfall and you're walking home, is that right?
Correct.
So fair to say you didn't go to 34 Fairview that
I
night?
did not.
And about what time was it that you got home?
Sometime between, I'd say 5 past and 10 past 12, somewhere in that window.
And was your wife home at that point?
She was.
And as far as your children were concerned, how many of your 3 sons were living with you at that time?
At that time, 2. My 16-year-old, well, he wasn't 16 years old at the time, but my 16-year-old and my 20-year-old.
And so 16 and 20 now, is that?
16 and 20 now, so that'd be like 14 and 18 then, I guess.
And so your oldest son,
He was in the San Diego in the Navy.
and if you know, or did you check or anything as far as your kids when you got home, were they there, if you know?
No, I ran right upstairs. I was freezing. I went right into my room.
Essentially, you went to bed, is that correct?
Correct.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, I would ask to publish for the jury just a small portion from what's been marked as Exhibit 53, the waterfall surveillance.
Okay.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have from Channel 3, the second video down. You could just pause there for a moment, Ms. Gilman. Mr. Albert, looking up at the screen, do you recognize generally what's depicted up on that screen?
Yeah, so those are the tables that I was speaking of that are like, there's like 2 or 3 in a row. Yep.
I'm sorry, may I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I don't have any.
My apologies. Thank you very much. So, sir, what I'm handing to you is a laser pointer. Basically, just click that button and point it up.
Okay.
Mr. Albert, using that laser pointer that I just handed to you, if you could direct the jury's attention to about where the high top is and then about where you were seated at that high top.
So here's the high top. And I can't really see myself, to be honest with you, this far away. But somewhere, I think I ate on this side here.
And as far as the bar is concerned, where would that be?
Back here. Wait. Oh, so this is from walking into the waterfall. Okay, so the bar is after. So that's the high top next to the bar. The bar's back there.
And as far as the band that you were talking about that was playing, if you could direct the jury's attention to where that was.
On this side over here. It's kind of fuzzy, but that side.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could ask you to fast forward to 10:54. And, I would ask if you could play that from 10:54 to about 10:56. I'm sorry, if you could just pause briefly, Ms. Gilman. Now, Mr. Albert, looking up at the screen, as far as the door that you came out and the door that you eventually exited from the waterfall, do you see sort of that general area and where that is in the video?
No, because I think it's offline here. I think it would be over here.
It would be off sort of towards the left, is that correct?
Yeah, like down this way.
Ms. Gilman, if you could press play. As far as two individuals sort of walking in, do you recognize who those individuals are?
I do. That's John O'Keefe and Miss Reed.
And again, Ms. Gilman, if you could just run it through 10:56. Thank you, Ms. Gilman. You can take that down. Now, Mr. Albert, as far as your son, Colin, do you know sort of where he was that night?
Yes. So he was at my brother Brian's house for my nephew's birthday.
And he came home sometime after you, is that correct?
Correct.
And essentially you came in, went to bed. So do you know what time your son came home that night?
I know that.
Do you know, just answer yes or no whether you know.
Yes.
And how do you know that? Sir?
Because he opened the bedroom door and said, "Good night, guys. I love you. I'm home."
And about how long after you got home was it that your son came home?
I'd say within 10 minutes.
And as far as sort of coming into your room, is that something that was required of your kids when they came home?
He would always do that. Yeah. That was something just to let us know that they were home.
Now, turning your attention to the next day on the 29th, about, obviously at some point you woke up, do you recall about what time that was?
8-ish, 8:30-ish.
So sometime between 8 and 8:30?
Yeah. I was still in bed. I woke up, but I didn't leave my room.
And what was it that, or who was it that woke you up that morning?
At that time, I just woke up on my own.
And when you woke up, what happened after you woke up?
Shortly after I woke up, my wife entered the room, but that was a little bit later. I don't know exactly what time. And she informed me that something had happened to John.
And what was it that you told?
I don't know the exact words that she said, but basically that John had died.
And what, if anything, did she indicate to you as to where John had died?
That he was found somewhere on the front lawn of 34 Fairview.
And receiving that information, where did you go, or where did you and your wife?
I was in shock. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean? And then I jumped up and she's like, we have to go over. Let's go over to your brother's house.
And about what time was it, if you know, that you got over to your brother's house?
Sometime approximately like after 9 o'clock. I don't remember exactly what time we went over there, maybe 9 or 9:30.
And when you arrived at your brother's house, who, if anyone, was there?
To the best of my recollection, from what I remember, I was there. My wife was there. My brother Brian, Nicole, Brian Higgins was there. I believe Matt McCabe was there and Jen McCabe was there.
When you came into the home, sort of where were they in relation?
Just sitting at the kitchen table.
And if you know, about how long did you stay at your brother's house when you came over?
Maybe an hour.
And where did you go from there?
Afterwards, just home.
Now, as far as subsequent to this, at some point within the days that followed, did you have occasion to speak with some troopers or members of the state police?
Yes, I did.
And how many troopers from the state police did you talk to when you spoke?
2.
And where was that?
At my condo.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay, cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yannetti.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
I was wrong.
Mr. Albert, you and I have never met, correct?
I don't believe so.
You've testified that you essentially lived in Canton your whole life, correct?
Correct.
Moved there when you were 4 years old?
Correct.
And the house to which you and your family moved was 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes.
You lived there for how long?
33 years?
And you currently own D&E Pizza in Canton?
Correct.
I believe you testified that you've owned it for approximately 25 years?
Correct.
Clearly, you have a lot of ties to the city of Canton. Would you agree?
Sure.
You live there?
Yes.
You work there?
Yes.
You have family there?
Yep.
You raised your kids there?
Yep.
And you also are a town selectman in the city of Canton. Or
Recently elected.
the town of Canton, I should say.
It's a town. Correct.
And not only that, but your brother, Kevin Albert, is a police officer in Canton?
He is.
Your brother, Brian Albert, with whom you grew up, is currently retired, but had been a Boston police officer who lived in Canton, correct?
Correct.
You would agree with me that Brian Albert only moved from Canton after John O'Keefe was found dead on his front lawn, correct?
Can you rephrase that?
I'll phrase it the exact same way and ask for a yes or no if you can do that. You would agree with me that your brother Brian Albert only moved from Canton after John O'Keefe was found dead on his front lawn?
Objection.
Can you answer that? Can you answer that?
Yeah, I just don't understand the phrase, but he moved shortly after that, yes.
Your brother Tim Albert lives with your parents in Canton, correct?
Correct.
And Tim Albert and your parents live directly across the street from the Canton Police Department, correct?
Correct.
Do you know whom they bought that house from?
Objection.
The objection sustained.
But you still live in Canton
Correct.
with your wife Julie Albert
Correct.
and your son Colin Albert, correct?
Along with my other two sons, yes.
And you would agree that your entire family has deep roots in the town of Canton?
I guess.
You would agree with me that the Albert family is well known in the town of Canton?
We have a big family.
And you would agree with me that the Albert family is a powerful family in the town of Canton?
Objection.
Sustained.
As a town selectman, you have some power, do you not?
I'm one of 5 selectmen.
And as a police detective, Kevin Albert has some power, does he not?
Objection.
Sustained.
And you also have close friends on the Canton Police Department, do you not?
Objection.
I'll allow
I have some.
Now, you know that Massachusetts State Police Trooper Michael Proctor is the lead investigator on this case, correct?
I know that.
One of your wife's best friends is Michael Proctor's sister, Courtney Proctor, correct?
Objection.
that. Okay, that's sustained. You've got another witness. You can ask that of, Mr. Yannetti.
You know Courtney Proctor, correct?
Objection.
Allowed.
Yes,
And you know her to be Michael Proctor's sister, correct?
that's correct.
You attended Michael Proctor's sister's wedding, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. May we approach?
Sure. Why don't you come on over?
Lally.
Boy, I'd love to know the basis of that objection. Like, what is the basis of that? Is he trying to claim relevance? Well, we know, pursuant to the defense's theory, that it's certainly relevant. And it does. I agree. Who made the comment? Serendipity said, it does. I don't know that it shows that it's scared, but it certainly shows the jury that the state doesn't want the jury to hear certain things for some reason.
Oh man, she's stared. This is how she was looking at Katie. That when she's looking in that direction, that is at the witness.
Yeah.
Not now. She just changed her look.
I would consider that to be what I refer to as the stink eye.
Daggers.
Yeah.
Daggers.
Giving the old stink eye.
How many people in the chat are going to be getting pizza for lunch or dinner after all the pizza discussion?
Pizza.
Me.
Pizza.
Raul is Amy.
No
Thank
pizza,
you all
no
so
serendipity.
Thank you all for being here, folks. We have almost 1,000 combined watching. 500. How many likes we got on the old YouTube? We have 500 watching. Looks like.
Let's see. I gotta refresh.
We're checking in on you guys. Let's see if you're good with the likes.
219.
219.
Not even half.
Come on, we can up that, folks. Get this in the algorithm.
Hold on, I have to pick up my broken heart from the floor. I'll be back. Oh, there it is. Oh, I'm trying to put it back together, stick it back in my chest.
I know it's gonna be good now. We didn't remind them. We're reminding now. Hit that button. Get us in the algorithm. Get more people to join this awesome community.
Yes. I made a bold declaration in our in the write-up that we have the best chat in the game. So
completely agree.
Thanks, Blair.
By the way, folks, if you don't know, this is a half day again, and it will be ending at 1. So just a reminder.
Yeah, I'm jumping on Law and Crime right after we get off. I'll probably have Ali rap with y'all so I can get proper dressed for an hour of Law and Crime.
Talking about this case, or do they just
I'm
bring you
assuming
on?
so. Yeah, they have they always send me like a laundry list. So they had Daybell, this case, and one other case. I think it was a Jersey case, I think.
Maybe they'll surprise you again, and they'll have you on with Coffin Tower. Remember that day? All of a sudden, you're on it, and it's Coffin.
Look of
this is a especially
utter
long
surprise. It's a
sidebar.
very, very long sidebar. Yet she hasn't dismissed the jury yet. So such a small courtroom. Do we know what do they do sound wise to? They use white noise, or what do they do?
Great question.
It's a very small courtroom.
Interestingly enough, I saw that recently. I don't know. Recently, the sidebars came out from Charlie Adelson's trial. I gotta try to get a copy of them. But at one point, Rauschbaum is, he objects, and then Georgia says something to the effect of, "You're watching the meal being made," or something like that, like letting him know, like, we're getting. This is all of us. I gotta find that transcript. It's I don't know why. I guess this is how long it takes for them to get it released, and then people have to buy it. But I thought that was funny.
That is funny. We're cooking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, I'll send a message to somebody in the courtroom. Tell them to up their camera game. Oh, you mean when I'm on with Law and Crime? I'll say, hey, we may or may not be using your stream for our live stream, and you may or may not want to get a new camera person. Whoever you had the first week was fire.
I was trying to make clips last night, and I watched on a different one, and it's interesting. The guys yesterday, the friends or whatever, they were focusing on Karen less than on the witnesses, which I found interesting. So that's, I guess, what their deal is.
I like where Jack's head's at here. Y'all come up with a Easter egg word or phrase that I'll use on Law and Crime. That'll be my shout out to our people. That's
a good idea. Think of something, folks. Put it in the chat.
Something good, not something like that seems way out of place. Uh-oh, lots of rustling and noise.
There we go.
I believe you testified, sir, that you've known Michael Proctor's sister for about 20 years.
Objection.
I don't think he said that, but we'll let that stand and then move on, please.
About 20 years. You testified.
Sure, if that's.
I believe, didn't you testify to that on direct examination just moments ago when Mr. Lally was asking you questions?
Objection, Your Honor.
Next question, Mr. Unetti. Objection sustained.
How long have you known Michael Proctor for?
I mean, I know he's Courtney's sister, brother. I couldn't tell you exactly how long I've known him for.
About 15 years or so?
Roughly.
Who is Kenneth Berkowitz,
The former Canton police chief.
and how do you know him?
His son and my son are the same age. So they played on some sports teams when they were younger together. I think that's when I first came to know Ken.
You became friendly with him.
I became friendly with him, sure.
And how would you characterize your relationship with him?
Friends?
You've seen him socially.
Really?
You've been out for drinks with him.
I think maybe once.
It'd be a tough one.
And you've known him for how long?
20 plus years.
And you say you've only been out with him for drinks one time in those 20 years?
I can't even remember if it was with drinks one time. Yeah, no.
What other types of activities have you done together?
Scout.
I can't think of any. I think he came to an event that I held one time. That's about it.
Have you been out with him in a group setting?
That event that I just mentioned, yeah.
And what event was that?
It was my campaign event when I was running for select board.
He was one of your supporters.
He came by.
Did he donate money to your campaign?
I think he did.
May we approach Judge?
Yes.
Ooh, I wonder if he has how much he donated or something he wants to show before he. There's the guy with the headache. He's looking not great again.
He's looking very concerned. He's saying a prayer right there.
His headache's coming on as we
Oh
speak.
God, please don't let the migraine come today. Can't deal with it. It's too much. It's too much. All the pizza talk. It's getting to me. D&E. I heard they have sub palms. The chicken palms aren't great. That's what I heard. What is all that rattling when they leave?
Sir, I'm going to display a photograph with the court's
Ooh,
permission
picture.
on
Here
the
we go.
screen, and I'd ask you to take a look at it, and if you let the jury
Do you have a
know.
hard copy of it?
Yes, we do have a hard copy.
So why don't you show it to the witness and
Happy
put
to
it in
do that.
evidence?
Thank you, Ron.
Get the hard copy.
And we'll take that into evidence and then.
That makes sense. May I approach, Judge?
Yes.
Trevor, thank you for becoming a member, Trevor.
What a guy.
Okay, sir, I've handed you a photograph. Do you recognize what that depicts?
Yes.
What does it depict?
Me and Kenny Berkowitz.
And is that a fair and accurate representation of you and Kenny Berkowitz?
You mean is the picture us?
Yes.
Yes.
I would offer that, Your Honor.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
55.
Oh.
May that be published to the jury on the screen, Your Honor?
Sure.
So, Mr. Albert, that's obviously you on the right and Kenny Berkowitz on the left.
Correct.
Have you seen that photo before?
I believe I've seen it.
Do you recall when?
I believe that's my fundraiser for when I was running for the select board, that event that I spoke of earlier.
Okay. And when would it have been that you saw that photograph?
I'm not sure. I don't know if it was on my Facebook page when I was running for select board. It looks familiar.
Has Mr. Lally shown you that photograph?
No.
Has he informed you that the defense would be introducing that photograph during this trial?
Nope.
You can take the photo down, Mr. Bates. And the lights come on. You would agree with me that one of your functions as a selectman is to oversee public safety in the town?
Yes,
And you would agree that the police department is a key component of public safety in the town of Canton?
yes,
So part of your duties as a town selectman is to oversee the Canton Police Department, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll let him have it. Is that one of your duties, sir?
I believe so. I'm new at the, I'm recently elected, so I'm just going through
Yeah,
it.
I
but
don't even know
I
what the
believe
job
so.
is. I just thought it sounded cool.
And you became a town selectman shortly after Kenny Berkowitz retired, correct?
I'm not sure when Kenny retired.
But you would agree with me that Kenny Berkowitz has both personal and professional relationships with you and members of your family, correct?
Can you rephrase that?
You would agree with me that the former Canton Police Chief, Kenny Berkowitz, has both personal and professional relationships with you and members of your family?
Objection, Your Honor. It's the same question.
Go ahead and answer that question.
I'm not sure. I agree with that question.
Well, your brother Kevin Albert worked under Chief Berkowitz, correct?
Correct.
Would you consider that to be a professional relationship?
With them too, yes.
And your brother Brian Albert attended Chief Berkowitz's retirement party, did he not?
I have no idea.
But your brother Brian is also a friend of Kenny Berkowitz, is he not?
He may be, not sure.
And as far as your, ties to the Canton Police, you would agree with me that Lieutenant Michael Blank is a member of the Canton Police Department, correct?
He is.
And you've been friends with him for years, correct?
I've known him for a long time.
You've been childhood friends with him since the age of 12, correct?
Somewhere around there, maybe earlier.
And you're tight with him.
I don't know if I call it tight.
He's not an enemy of yours, is he?
Oh, God, no.
No, he's a friend of yours, correct?
Sure.
And does sure mean yes?
Yes.
Now, your older brother, Brian, you've already testified, was a Boston police officer for years, correct?
Correct.
And he achieved some notoriety on a television show, did he not?
Objection.
Okay.
He was in the fugitive unit?
Correct.
And you know that your brother Brian was also a trained boxer, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Brian is a lot bigger guy than you are, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Your brother Brian Albert is someone who is close to his family, correct?
Yes.
And when I say his family, I'm talking about not just his, wife and children, but also his extended family, correct?
Yes.
You were part of his family, obviously, correct?
Yes.
And your son Colin is part of his family, correct?
Yes.
The Albert family is close, correct?
Yes.
You all essentially grew up in Canton, correct?
Correct.
And you hung out with each other growing up, correct?
We were siblings, so
Of course.
yes.
And you still hang out with each other quite often, correct?
Like all of us,
In various combinations.
we have different relationships with my siblings.
Sure. But you see some more than others, but you hang out with your family, do you not?
Yeah, mostly during holidays,
And you go out for drinks together, correct?
occasionally,
And you're protective of each other, correct?
like most families.
And if someone had a dispute with a member of the Albert family, Brian wouldn't be happy about that, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
You know that Brian would stick up for your kids, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Your son Colin is particularly close to your brother Brian, is he not?
Objection.
I'll let him have that. Do you know?
Yes.
In fact, your son Colin was a football player through high school, was he not?
Yes.
What was his number?
In high school,
Yes.
34, I believe.
Walter Payton.
And was that for 34 Fairview?
I don't think so.
Wow.
Now, you testified you moved to Maple Street in Canton not long before
That's a little
January
bit of a
28th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
And before that, you lived at 7 Meadows Ave in Canton?
Correct.
And that was when John O'Keefe was your neighbor, correct?
Correct.
I believe you testified he was a couple of houses away from you?
Yes.
And he was your neighbor for a series of years, was he not?
Yes.
While he was living in the neighborhood, you knew that he was working as a Boston police officer, correct?
Correct.
And you were familiar with him, correct?
What do you mean? What do you mean familiar?
You knew who he was, you became familiar with
Yeah, he
him.
was my neighbor. I knew who he was.
And you knew that he was not married, correct?
Yes.
And at a certain point, you knew that he was dating Karen Reed.
Yeah, at some point.
All right. Now, you would agree with me that your family has a police background, sir, correct?
I wouldn't agree with that statement.
2 of your brothers are or were police officers, correct?
Out of 7 of us, yes.
And you knew friends of your brothers who were also police officers or in law enforcement, correct?
Correct.
And you had already testified that you know some members of the Canton Police Department, correct?
Correct.
And you socialized with police officers, did you not?
Have I? Sure.
You've been to bars with police officers, correct?
Correct.
And you drank with police officers, right?
Sure.
And you were friendly with police officers, correct?
Yes.
And with regard to, I'd like to ask you some questions about people specifically connected to this case. We've established that Lieutenant Lank has been a friend of yours for years, correct?
Yes.
We've established that you know former police chief Kenneth Berkowitz in such a way that you feel comfortable calling him before this jury Kenny Berkowitz, correct?
Nice.
I know Kenny. Yep.
And he's actually donated to your campaign when you were running for town selectman, correct?
Correct.
And you
Next
also
scratch.
knew Michael Proctor prior to January 29th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
You've attended social events together with him, have you not?
Objection.
I'll let that one question.
Couple.
So at some point, Michael Proctor came to question you, did he not?
Along with another trooper. Correct.
And at the point in time when Michael Proctor came to question you, you knew who he was, correct?
Yes.
You knew him by face, correct?
Correct.
And you knew him by name, correct? For Michael Proctor to formally introduce himself to you, was there?
Objection.
Sustained.
What did he say when he first walked in the door in terms of introductions?
Objection.
Sustained.
May we be seen as side by side?
Sure.
Sidebar.
Interesting. This is clearly a point that Yannetti wants to. This introduction is something that wants to get in, but she doesn't.
Yeah, for sure. And, I mean, this is all kind of getting into the weeds with their defense. So, again, it's super annoying that we don't know what the basis for the objections is.
Really
it's
is.
like, I mean, it's crazy that she did that. Yeah, this definitely would have been a good place for, like, especially with his 7 brothers, for Marky, Ricky, Danny, Terry, Mikey, Davey, Timmy, Tommy, Robbie, Joey, Johnny, and Brian. Uh-oh, Allie's coming in. I have to stop the camera.
I tried to find that sound effect, by the way. I couldn't find it. I might have to download this clip.
And then And then she says, say it again.
Do I have a shot? But again, if the interesting thing here is, if you're on the jury, you're thinking, what's going on? Why is he trying so hard to not even let him talk about the
For sure.
introduction? Why
For
is
sure.
that such a big deal? Because that's what I'm wondering. Like,
Right. I mean, that's the natural thing that you're going to be thinking from the jury. Like, why are they not allowing them to ask these questions? You know, it makes it seem sus. Just does. So somebody had asked a question. I was going to put it up. I think I may have put it up. Whether or not we will ask a question knowing it's going to be objected to just because we want the jury to hear it. And Allison and I absolutely did that all the time. It's like that old "you can't unring a bell" thing.
Can't unring it. They heard it.
Yeah.
Even if they say to strike it.
Yeah.
Without getting into the precise wording, you'd agree with me that there was no need for Michael Proctor to formally introduce himself to you for that meeting, correct?
Yes.
He didn't need to say, how do you do? I am Michael Proctor, correct?
No.
No. Do you consider the Proctors to be the Albert second family?
Objection.
Oh.
Do you consider that?
No.
You are aware that there are members of the Proctors family who have posted publicly that the
Objection,
Alberts
Your
are
Honor.
their second family, correct?
So the objection is sustained and I'm striking that question. Disregard.
Yeah, got it out there.
Now, at the time that Trooper Michael Proctor showed up to question you, sir, you knew that Karen Reed had been charged in this case, correct?
Yes.
And you knew that John O'Keefe had been found dead on your brother's lawn, correct?
Correct.
Did it occur to you that it was odd that the state police sent somebody from the Proctor family to interview you
Objection, Your Honor.
on February 10th of 2022?
Sustained.
All right. Now, you've testified that on
that guy.
January 28th of 2022, that day, that Friday that you were working, John O'Keefe stopped into D&E Pizza, your shop, correct?
Correct.
And there was discussion about whether you would be going out that night, and if so, where you would be, correct?
Correct.
Well, I mean, first he got a slice.
Now, you've previously, on direct examination, characterized your relationship with him as being friends, correct?
Correct.
It's fair to say, however, that prior to January 28th of 2022, you had never exchanged personal information with John O'Keefe, correct?
You mean, I'm sorry, you mean like phone numbers or what?
A cell number prior to that day.
No, I didn't.
And at that point in time, he had lived in your neighborhood for 4 to 5 years, correct?
Correct.
So I believe you've testified that that night after working, you went out around 10 minutes of 10 p.m.?
Roughly.
Before going out, did you have anything alcoholic to drink?
Think I may have had a beer at my pizza shop. I don't remember exactly.
So you have a
And the slice.
refrigerator there that
The slices are great.
drinks cold, correct?
Among other things.
And you do have beers in that fridge for
Sometimes.
personal use?
Sometimes.
Do you know how many beers that you would have had before going out?
No.
And would you have drank that beer as you were cleaning up at the end of the night?
Probably.
Did you have anything to eat at the pizza shop?
No.
When did you last eat before you went out at 9:50 or so?
When did I last eat?
Yes.
It's a long time ago. I'm not sure.
I think I had a slice around
And you
noon.
knew that your wife Julie was starting the night at CF McCarthy's, correct?
Yes.
And you couldn't meet her there because you were still working, right?
Correct.
But at some point you heard that Julie and others were headed to the waterfall, correct?
Yes.
And that was where you planned to go after you closed up D&E Pizza.
Correct.
With regard to the time that you left, 9:50 or so is your best estimate of when you're closing the doors and walking over to the waterfall?
Yes.
And the waterfall is a short walk to D&E Pizza,
Yes.
maybe about 3 minutes?
About that.
And your plan was to walk there that night, correct?
Correct.
You had not taken a car to D&E Pizza anyway, right?
I don't believe so.
So what time did you get to the waterfall?
Shortly before 10. I don't know exactly.
All right. And yeah, I believe you've testified that John O'Keefe and Karen Reed were not there when you arrived, right?
Correct.
And the food that you ordered, do you remember what appetizers you would have gotten?
Probably like potato skins and some sort of chicken tenders. I would guess. It's 2 years ago, so I don't remember exactly.
And did
Chicken
you order a drink
tendies.
along with the appetizers?
I believe so.
All right, and that would have been the Miller Lite that you talked about?
Correct.
Then not long after you got there, Brian Albert and Brian Higgins showed up, correct?
Correct.
And you have met Brian Higgins prior to that night.
Yes.
In fact, you had testified that you had seen him around quite a bit, correct?
A few times.
And you knew him, I believe your testimony was, from him working inside the Canton Police Station, correct?
I knew that he worked there.
Did you testify on direct examination, quote, I knew him from working inside Canton PD?
Yes.
And you've been inside Canton Police, correct?
Maybe twice in my life.
You knew that Brian Albert, your brother, and Brian Higgins were friends, correct?
I knew they knew each other.
So are you saying that they were acquaintances?
No, I guess they're friends.
You guess they're friends?
Yeah, they're friends.
Was there something confusing about my question the first time I asked it?
Objection, Your Honor.
Ooh, getting spicy.
In any case, would you agree that shortly before Brian Albert and Brian Higgins arrived at the waterfall, or shortly after they did, there was a couple whom, I believe you call them a Greek couple because their last name is difficult to pronounce for everybody. But do you remember them being there?
Not me.
Yes.
I crushed it.
If I mention the name Kolakithis, does that ring a bell? Or do you?
That's them, yeah.
That's them, okay. And the whole group was either standing or sitting around a high top table?
Correct.
And at 9:45 p.m., you texted John O'Keefe while you were at the waterfall, correct?
Correct.
Would you agree with me that the language of your text was, quote, get over here or I'll fuck up your lawn, end quote?
That was one of the texts.
We have that printed out that I can take. I may just have a moment. May I approach?
Sure.
Do we have, let's say, you have evidence on it?
It's 2 marks.
I'm sorry, I don't think I asked to approach.
Good, that's fine.
Thank you. I've placed a document before you, sir. Take a look at that and tell the jury whether or not you recognize it.
Yeah, I recognize it.
What is it?
It's a text message, 2 text messages.
Okay. And who are the participants in that text message exchange?
Me and John.
And what is it that you said and at what time?
So the first one,
Okay, Come on over.
Jeez.
Sidebar. Yeah.
Get over here. I'm gonna fuck up your lawn.
Listen, do you want me to put 5,000 of my mediocre chicken palms on your fucking lawn? Get over here now. Yeah. That was my favorite thing that Turtle Boy ever said was he would always reference Albert having mediocre chicken palms. It was funny. Always made me laugh.
That's a big insult. It's a big
That's a
insult
big,
for
it's a big insult.
pizza
Yeah.
place. Gotta have good
Yeah.
chicken palm.
Gotta have solid chicken palm. Mediocre chicken palms just don't do it. I wonder if Portnoy ever went over there and did his pizza thing.
One bite. Everyone knows the rules.
His one bite over at D&E.
That's a great question. That is a great question.
I mean, it's like on his side of the world, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly. This is right.
I
This is his own.
think so. Sleuthy says calling his chicken palm mediocre is a huge insult. You know, I always think that the sauce is the key.
So key. It's so key.
You gotta have a nice tangy sauce. Same with pizza, man. You can't come to the table with some whack. I'm Jay. You got your Miss Peach's hoodie last week.
Yes, I did yesterday. So before you consider any electronic communication in your deliberations, you must first find that it's more likely true than not true that the person who either authored or sent or created or transmitted the communication was in fact John O'Keefe and this witness, Chris Albert. If you do not find that it's more likely true than not that John O'Keefe sent one or that this witness was the person who sent the message or transmitted it, then you may not consider it in deciding this case. So you have clarification a bit, Mr. Yannetti, at this point?
I do, yes. And just for the record and for the jurors' edification, this is part of Exhibit 48, which is already in evidence. But I would ask that this particular exchange be posted on the screen with the court's.
Sure.
Yeah, Raul, it's got to be panko. You got to go panko breadcrumbs. Otherwise, get out of my face.
No, that's no, sir.
Okay.
Oh my
4C
God.
Italian seasoned
So
breadcrumbs.
you'd
sir.
agree
Oh
that
my
the,
God.
when you
Panko,
get
get out of here.
text
Mods,
messages
block
Jay,
Bob.
with regard
Jay,
to the same
block
subject.
block him immediately, mods. Like
Block.
we all know he has the worst palate in the world.
What do you mean? I don't follow you.
It says get over here, right? And then the second is a continuation of that. If not, I'm going to fuck up your lawn, correct?
So you mean that's to tell him to come over to the waterfall?
Right.
Okay, I just didn't understand what you meant.
That's fine. So you're telling John O'Keefe this, correct?
Yeah, I'm telling him to come over and meet us.
All right. And that little emoji, that face emoji after, if not, I'm going to fuck up your lawn, that's.
Yeah, it's a laughing face.
Right. So you're.
It's a joke.
And you're cracking up.
Yeah, it's a joke.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay.
Apologize.
Bob's
Okay.
gonna fuck my
I'll
lawn.
take that down.
Gonna fuck up my lawn over the. It's gotta be
At
4C,
about
guys.
10:45 PM or so, I believe you testified that was when John O'Keefe walked into the bar with his girlfriend,
Good
Karen
enough.
Reed.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Would you agree with me that between the time you arrived and the time you eventually left, that you did go up to the bar within that establishment a few times
I'm sure he did.
and bought a few rounds of drinks,
I'm sure.
including that one round of fireball shots?
Correct.
What was the state of your sobriety when John and Karen arrived?
Probably fine. Fine.
All right, you didn't feel like intoxicated
No.
or unable to, perceive what's going on. You were still in control of your faculties.
Yes.
And is it true that after John and Karen arrived, that your wife Julie didn't want to stay any longer, or too much longer?
She didn't want to. She had a headache, so she wanted to go home.
Right. And by that point in time, you had been there about an hour, maybe a little less.
When Karen and John arrived?
Right.
Yeah, about an hour.
All right, and you were having fun.
Sure.
And so Julie drove home, but you stayed, correct?
Correct.
All right. And in terms of Karen Reed's drinking, as far as you could see, she had that glass that she came in with that appeared to have a clear liquid in it, correct?
Correct.
And I believe you said either a lime or a lemon?
Thought I said a lime, but yeah.
Okay. And you assumed that that was, vodka and soda water or vodka and some type of mixer, correct? That was clear?
Correct.
And if she was, while drinking that night, if she was mixing in water in between alcoholic drinks, it would have been impossible for you to discern which drinks were water and which drinks were vodka, correct?
Yeah, I would have no idea.
You can't tell that by eyeballing a drink, right?
No.
Because both liquids are clear.
Yes.
And in order to discern that, you'd actually have to be given a sip to see, right? Okay. But in any case, Karen does not appear to be under the influence of alcohol to you.
I didn't notice anything.
She wasn't stumbling, correct?
Nope.
She wasn't swaying.
I didn't notice.
She didn't appear to be unbalanced, correct?
I didn't notice anything.
She wasn't slurring her words.
Nope.
She wasn't talking gibberish, correct?
No.
She was engaging in normal conversation and she appeared to be under control.
Yeah.
And would you agree with me that she also appeared to be affectionate with John O'Keefe?
I wasn't really watching their interactions too much, to be honest.
But in any case, you never saw any arguing between the two of them.
I wasn't really paying attention to their
And you
interactions.
You didn't perceive any tension between them, correct?
I didn't notice anything irregular.
Okay. And from your observations of Karen Reed that night, and you were there probably over 2 hours, were you not?
Total? About that, yeah.
From your observations of Karen that night, you would have had no problem with her driving a car, correct?
I wouldn't even have thought about it.
Okay. Now, would you agree with me that of the group that you had met out, that you were the last person to leave the waterfall on January 29th of 2022?
I believe so.
Now, you previously, you testified in direct examination today, I believe, that you thought you got home between 12:05 and 12:10 a.m. on January 29th, correct?
It's what I remember.
If I suggested to you that you didn't even leave the bar until 12:13 a.m., would you quarrel with that?
Would I quarrel with it?
Yes.
No, I guess not. I mean,
And is your memory exhausted as to the precise time that you left the bar?
is it exhausted?
Right. In other words, do you not remember the
Are you
precise
asking if
time that you left
my
the bar
memory
that
is
day?
tired?
It's over 2 years ago.
I don't understand the question.
I don't know the precise time.
Right.
That's why I said between 12:05 and 12:10.
That answers my question. Thank you. Could we have Exhibit 50? What was the court's permission? Can I publish Exhibit 53? It's a short clip from the waterfall. Sure.
All right, so I need to clarify. So when you use panko crumbs and you're making a chicken parm as a guy who cooks, you of course add the Italian seasoning to the panko. Why panko's better is it's crispier. It just is. So I like a crispier crust. You of course add the seasoning, Italian seasoning. You mix it in there. You mix up your panko. You mix the seasoning in there, and then you bread it.
Good try,
Nice,
Bob. You're still not
crispy
convincing me. About
chicken parm. I'm gonna make you one. We're gonna make one of each, and then you're gonna have a taste test. That's what's
July,
gonna happen.
the podcast.
That's right. That's right. I mean, I cook, man. Oh, see, Raul uses fresh herbs. Me too, man. You got to go fresh herbs, bro. I like this idea. Jay will make tendies. Stick tendies in the microwave.
Oh, that's my in the microwave there. How dare you, sir?
Better be used in the air fryer, bro. Joanne says still a fail. Joanne.
If we could pause it for a second, please. Ms. Robert, you would agree with me, this was clearly the end of the night?
Sure.
The lights are all on at this point.
Matches perfectly.
Yes.
The bar appears to have largely emptied out.
Yes.
Okay, continue, please.
Nighttime shades.
Pause it. Oh, there we go. My co-counsel is much better at this than I. Do you know?
All right,
who
Pokey.
that person
Taking
is
you up
who's
on
leaving
that.
the bar At this point at 12:13 and 43 a.m.
Steve, it might be better without that spotlight.
Okay.
See it now?
That's fine.
Yeah. I believe it's me.
Continue, please.
Straggler.
Okay. You can take that off the screen. So having now viewed that video with the timestamp of 12:13 and about 43 seconds or so, does that refresh your memory as to when you left the waterfall?
Yes.
That would mean it would have been impossible for you to get home to Maple Street by 12:05 or 12:10, correct?
Correct.
Oh, look at that.
Now, it was about maybe a 7-minute walk home. Would you agree with me?
From Waterfall to Maple? No, I said 7 minutes from D&E to Waterfall. Waterfall to Maple's probably less than 5 minutes.
So it's your testimony that D&E is closer to the waterfall than the waterfall is to Maple Street?
D&E's farther away from Waterfall than, farther away from where I live than Waterfall is.
I understand.
Oh, I don't follow you. I'm sorry.
I'll try to clarify. I
Okay.
don't mean to be confusing here.
It's fine.
I'm not asking about the distance between D&E and your home. I'm trying to compare or ask you to compare the distance between D&E and the waterfall and then the waterfall. And do you see the difference?
I think so.
Would you agree with me that your home is farther from the waterfall than D&E Pizza is from the waterfall?
I don't follow you. I'm sorry.
Break it down for
Okay.
D&E
So
waterfall.
let's take it step
Your
by
house
step.
waterfall. Yes, here we go.
D&E Pizza to the waterfall. Are they on the same street?
Yes.
How many establishments, if you know, are between D&E Pizza and the waterfall?
Just a few.
Okay, so it's a very short walk from
Yes.
D&E Pizza to the waterfall.
Yes.
Correct? Your home on Maple Street is not on the same street as the waterfall, correct?
It's off of the same street.
But it's not on the same street.
No.
And
I don't block
your
anybody.
home
My mods
on
might have
Maple
blocked
Street
him though.
is farther
I like
from
you.
the waterfall than D&E Pizza
Not
is to the waterfall. Is it
Correct. Correct.
not? Okay.
I didn't understand it earlier.
No, I know it. I'm trying to work through this because I'm not trying to trick you here. I just want to get the answer. So you would agree with me that it would take you longer to walk home from the waterfall than it would take you to walk to the waterfall from D&E Pizza.
Correct.
All right. And I believe you said that one walk was 7 minutes and one walk was maybe less than 5 minutes, correct?
Yes.
All right. The 7-minute walk would have been the walk home as opposed to the walk to the waterfall, correct?
Yes.
All right. So you have agreed that you left the bar at 12:13, almost 12:14, according to the video, and it would have taken you about 7 minutes to walk home, correct?
Not exactly sure how. I think
Can I see Councilor Tybor for just a second, please?
Man, this is like pulling teeth, dude. How long does it take you to walk home from there? Let's add that time and let's get an approximate time of when you got home. This is like, why is this pulling teeth? Is it the questioning? I think he's being clear in the question. Maybe I
do too. Did not seem confusing to me.
yeah.
Yeah, I never block anybody. Frankly, to be honest, I don't even know how to block somebody on YouTube. Wouldn't even know. That's all my mods. They keep us in an insulated bubble of happiness, Jay. That's what they try to do.
They are
our
awesome.
mods.
That's true. That's true.
Insulated bubble of happiness.
Speaking of Bob, you mentioned Missy's gonna be streaming your
Yes.
Make sure you're following Missy on the Kick Machine. I don't know what the command is.
I think you guys threw up Missy's link.
There it is.
Throw it up there again too. Yeah, they 48 hours. So that was I was negotiating with all of those kind of those shows, those type of shows, Dateline, 48 hours. And I ended up kind of giving access to the Dateline, and 48 hours ended up sticking us in the last 10 minutes. Still put us on blast. Yeah, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do, Jay?
Over 1,100 people watching. Thank you so much. How are our likes? We got how many people? We got almost over 550 on the YouTube.
556, and then 352. 352.
Not bad, but much bigger improvement from before. Thank you, folks.
It is. Thank you all. Thank you all. Steve Roberts says it's a 26-minute walk from the pizza place.
Wow, that's a huge difference. If that's
It's been pointed out to me that I think we're not making
But I
the
think we
connection
just talk about
here,
the waterfall.
and I think it might be my fault. With regard to the timing of how long it took you to go home, I believe your best estimate is about 5 minutes. Is that your testimony? And when I say home, I'm not talking about from D&E Pizza. I'm talking about that early morning when you're at the waterfall.
I understand. Yeah. I'd say around 5 minutes, I think, from the waterfall to Maple Street.
Fair enough. So now if you're leaving the bar at close to 12:14, as indicated on the video, you're getting home somewhere around 12:19, 12:20, correct?
Roughly, yeah.
And what were you wearing that night?
Blue jeans, sneakers, I think, and a sweatshirt.
Okay. And it had started to snow by that point.
A little bit.
So the ground was a little bit either slushy or wet.
Not slushy, but could have been wet.
Could have been wet. And the snow had not yet started to accumulate, or had it?
It didn't start. No.
All right. So you're walking home, but it was cold. Correct?
Correct.
And would you agree that in the best case scenario, you might have had a little bit more clothing on for that cold walk home?
I think I had a sweatshirt on.
Right, but you could have used something else, right?
Oh, probably.
In light of the weather?
Probably.
All right, because you testified that by the time you got home, you were pretty cold, right?
Correct.
You hadn't, if it had been about a 5-minute walk, that was enough time for you to walk in almost shivering, correct?
Sure.
And given that there was precipitation, the snow had started, the sweatshirt would absorb the moisture as opposed to repel it, correct?
Sure.
And so you were wet as well when you walked in, right?
Sure.
And by that point in time, you were tired, correct?
I don't remember if I was tired, but
Okay.
I don't remember if I was tired at that point.
Okay. You had worked all day
Correct.
till late in the day, actually into the evening, correct?
Correct.
Taking pizzas in and out of a hot oven,
Correct.
as well as other food that you serve as well, correct?
Yep.
And you're now, and by the way, you'd had a couple of drinks or a few drinks, whatever it was, at the waterfall, correct?
Correct.
And you decided not to go to your brother Brian Albert's house, correct?
Correct.
That was in part because you weren't up for the continued partying at that point, correct?
Yeah, I just wanted to go home.
Right. And so when you got home, would you agree with me that your first priority would have been getting out of the wet clothes that you were in.
Correct.
And where would you have done that within your
In
home?
my bedroom.
And is this a townhouse? Or is it a freestanding residence?
It's a condominium.
Condominium? How many floors?
There's 3 floors.
And your bedroom's on the top floor?
Correct.
And the entrance is ground level?
Correct.
When you first entered the home in those wet clothes, where was your wife, Julie?
Upstairs in the bedroom.
And was she already washed up and ready for bed?
She was lying in bed.
And where did you go when you walked in the ground level?
I went up to the bedroom,
All right,
took off my clothes, jumped in bed.
all right. Do you have a master bath with regard to your bedroom?
There's a bathroom, yeah.
All right. That would have been where you brushed your teeth
Yeah.
and washed up?
But I did, that's where I would do those things, but I didn't do them.
You didn't
those
do
things.
either of those?
No.
Okay. Did you grab a drink of water before you went to bed?
Nope.
All right, so you essentially came home, and I think we agreed it was around 12:20 or so, give or take a minute.
Roughly.
And you made a beeline for your bedroom.
Correct.
Did you fall asleep shortly thereafter?
Soon after,
Within 5 minutes or so? 10 minutes?
I started to doze off. I don't know exactly how soon after I fell asleep.
All right. Sometime within 5 or 10 minutes, would you say?
I would say more like within 15 minutes.
15 minutes, okay. So with regard to getting home, and we'll call it 12:19, because I think that's more consistent with what you said. And understanding that it's just an estimate. If you're walking in the door at 12:19, it takes you maybe a minute to get upstairs.
About a minute.
You kicked off your sneakers downstairs, I imagine.
Maybe. I don't remember. That was a long time ago.
Okay, and then you walked up 2 flights of stairs. Right?
Probably ran up the stairs because I was cold.
Okay, all right. So you're getting up there around 12:20 or so, correct?
Roughly, yeah.
And you believe that you dozed off about 15 minutes later, which would have made it about 12:35?
Somewhere around there.
All right. Now, when you came home, you would agree with me that your son, Colin Albert, was not home, correct?
Not when I first got home.
And in fact, I think your testimony was that 10 minutes after you got home, he opened the bedroom door?
I think that's what I said, yeah.
Do you want to stick with that?
I'm just trying to recollect what I, thinking it over. So obviously it was a little bit longer.
Because you actually woke up when he opened the bedroom door, correct?
I don't think so.
Did you not just
Wait,
testify
what?
before this jury
He didn't wake up, and how did he know he
Oh, no,
came in
maybe an
and
hour
said goodnight?
ago?
I love you.
that
What?
you fell asleep and that your son Colin opened the bedroom door and woke you up to say goodnight?
You said that, dude.
Yeah, I guess that's what I said.
Okay. And when you testified to that on direct examination, that was when Mr. Lally was asking you questions, correct?
Correct.
And you knew that you were under oath at that time, correct?
Correct.
And you were trying to be as accurate as possible, correct?
Trying to be correct.
All right. So in terms of the timing of this, assuming that he opened the bedroom door after you already fell asleep, if you're getting home upstairs to your bedroom around 12:20 and it takes you 15 minutes to go to bed, and that's around 12:35, then sometime after you're asleep, after 12:35, that's when Colin opens the bedroom door, correct?
I don't remember exactly.
Well, it's difficult for you to remember how long you'd been asleep for when Colin opened the bedroom door, correct?
Correct.
You don't know if it was 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or longer, correct?
I don't know exactly.
Right. But it was some time after you fell asleep.
To the best of my recollection.
Now, with regard to your son Colin, he obviously lived in the same neighborhood as John O'Keefe because that's where your family lives, correct?
Correct.
And back in 2022, Colin Albert was 17 years old.
Correct. Part of the year.
And you knew that, like most teenagers, Colin drank alcohol with his buddies, correct?
Correct.
Can you explain for the jury who or what is Nevercracker?
What is Nevercracker?
Yes,
Like the character?
that's what I'm asking.
It's a character in a cartoon called Monster House.
And would you agree with me that Nevercracker in the movie Monster House was this kind of old curmudgeon who didn't want anybody on his lawn, correct?
The character, yes.
He was the get off my lawn guy, correct?
In the movie, yeah.
What was your nickname and your wife Julie's nickname for
John
John
O'Keefe.
O'Keefe?
Mr. Nevercracker.
All right. And your wife Julie actually had John O'Keefe plugged into his contacts as Nevercracker, correct?
Correct.
In fact, you were there one time when Julie showed Karen Reed, her phone to show how John O'Keefe was plugged in as Nevercracker, correct?
I believe so.
And this whole nickname started because of a conflict that Colin Albert had with John O'Keefe.
Not correct.
John O'Keefe complained to you about things that Colin was doing.
Not correct.
He would tell you that Colin used to throw beer cans or beer bottles in his bushes, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
So you can answer that. What's your answer?
That is not correct.
John O'Keefe told you that Colin used to flip him off, correct?
Not correct.
And say F you to him.
Never.
Colin used to cut through his yard.
Nope, that was Dylan.
You knew that John didn't like people cutting through his yard, correct?
No, I don't know that to be true.
Okay. So is it your testimony that John O'Keefe invited kids to cut through his lawn all the time?
I don't understand. Is that a question?
It was a question. I guess let me withdraw that and ask this. If John O'Keefe is Nevercracker, and he's the get off your lawn guy,
He has to have
are
a
you denying
background for
that
calling
he
that.
doesn't like people cutting through his lawn?
Do you want me to, can I explain?
I just asked for an answer to my question. Mr. Lally will get up after I'm done, and I'm sure you can explain whatever you want.
So no, he's not no.
All right. Well, you would agree with me that there was a time when John O'Keefe was not home that you and your wife Julie went to his house
That is correct.
and you entered onto his property, correct?
On his front property, yes.
And you had drinks in your hand.
Correct.
And you thought it would be funny to have a photo taken of you and your wife with drinks in your hand on his property, correct?
Correct.
And you knew it would be funny because you knew it would annoy him, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
Oh, you can go ahead. Can you answer that?
Yeah, he was actually asking us to watch his house while he was away.
Right, but that doesn't answer my question, which was he didn't ask you to go onto his property with drinks in your hand and take a photo, correct?
He asked us to watch his property.
Okay,
Oh,
but
man,
again,
come on.
in answer to my question,
Answer
the
the
answer is
question,
no, he did not ask us to go on his property and take pictures of ourselves with drinks in our hand, correct?
Yeah, he didn't ask me to send him a photo.
And you would agree with me that Nevercracker wouldn't like a photo of somebody on his lawn with drinks in their hands, correct?
The cartoon character, Nevercracker?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor.
The human
Next
Nevercracker.
question, please,
Yes.
Ms. Giannetti.
I have the photo. May I approach?
Yes.
Yeah, he is scratching and sniffing and an awful lot. It's really amping up here. He is not comfortable, clearly. Not that it's a comfortable situation in the first place, but
Real
Mr.
violent
Place
sniffing.
2 photographs before you. If you could take a look at those and tell the jury if you recognize what they depict.
I do.
What do those photos depict?
It's me and my wife straddling John's fence. We're giving a thumbs up in one of them and a smile in another one.
Okay. And you say John's fence, so that's actually on John's property, correct?
Part of it is, yeah. I mean, I don't know what the easement is from the street to the fence as ownership goes, but yeah.
All right.
I know the town owns a certain portion of it.
Would you agree with me that that photo was taken in April of 2021?
I'm not sure when it was taken, but if that's what you have for a date, then it's fine.
Okay. Who took that picture?
That's a good question. I have no idea.
Where was your son Colin that night when you had that picture taken?
I have no idea.
Would you agree with me that you texted those photos, or somebody texted those photos, whether it was you or your wife Julie, to John O'Keefe?
Absolutely.
And offer those are fair and accurate representation of the photos that you took?
Yeah.
All right. I would offer those, Your Honor.
All right, any objection?
No, Your Honor.
And with the court's permission, may they be published for the jury?
Okay.
I'm gonna start calling Jade Nebercracker.
call me Nebercracker.
With regard to that photo, is that, well, first of all, whose house is that in the background?
That's John's.
And that is you on the right and your wife Julie on the left?
Correct.
You have the second photo, please. Okay. That is also John's house in the background there?
Correct.
And again, that's you on the right and Julie on the left, correct?
Correct.
Okay, we can take that photo now. Now, would you agree with me that those photos give some context to the text that you sent him on January 28th when you were trying to get him to come out and you threatened to, quote, fuck up his lawn if he didn't come out that night?
What do you mean give context to?
Well, in other words, here you are texting him photos of you and your wife on his lawn, correct?
Yes.
And that's a common theme that explains the January 28th text where you were threatening to fuck up his lawn, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
Okay. I just have one more area that I want to cover with you,
Chris is
sir.
getting pissed.
You previously confirmed that when you walked in your door on January 29th of 2022 after coming home from the waterfall, your son Colin was not home, correct?
It's correct.
At that time, you had no personal knowledge of where he had been that night, correct?
That's correct.
Since that time, you know that he was at your brother Brian's house that night, Brian Albert.
It's correct.
Your old home, correct?
Where I grew up, yep.
And you knew that address to be 34 Fairview Road.
Correct.
And you knew that that was the same house outside which John O'Keefe was found dead later that morning, correct?
Correct.
I may have a moment.
Sure.
Just one other question, sir. When you spoke to Trooper Proctor on February 10th of 2022, you would agree with me that you never mentioned that Colin Albert was at your brother Brian's house that night, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
Oh,
I don't remember.
right. Thank you. Brief redirect.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Redirect
you.
and break. Break. I'm calling break after redirect.
Big time break. The 11 o'clock late morning break is 1 minute
Now,
late,
Mr.
Jerry.
Albert, you were asked some questions about being a selectman. Were you a selectman at the time on January 28th, 2022?
No,
About how long after that was it that you became?
sometime in April that the election was over, April, second week in April, maybe?
So that photograph that you were shown with respect to yourself and the former Chief Berkowitz of the Canton Police, when was that?
It was a fundraiser, so it was probably like 2 or 3 weeks before the election. So January, February, March something, end of March, maybe?
So well after January 28th, 2022?
Yes,
And you were asked some questions about your brother selling the house. Now, prior to your brother selling the house, you had sold your house, correct?
correct.
And why was that?
Why was that? It just made it made sense for us. You know, it was just a financial decision.
Kids were getting older, is that correct?
Yeah,
One was in the Navy.
Yep.
Another was about to go to college.
correct.
And what, if any, relation did that have to your brother selling the house?
So once he found out that I was selling my,
Objection.
No, I'm going to allow it.
once he found out I was selling my house, he decided that it might be a good idea for him to sell his house. His kids were getting older. So I gave him my real estate's number, the guy who sold my house.
And that selling of the house, was that something that you would discuss with your brother prior to January 28th, 2022?
Yeah, soon after.
Let's move on from that.
Now, with regards, regard to your son Colin when he came home that night, you indicated that it was about 10 minutes after. Now, was that 10 minutes after you arrived home or 10 minutes after you got into bed?
10 minutes after I jumped into bed.
Now, with reference to your son Colin, he came home, you saw him that night, correct?
When he came home?
Yes.
Yeah, he just leaned his head in the door.
And when he leaned his head in the door, did you, similar to what I had asked you about Mr. O'Keefe, did you observe any sort of injuries or anything like that to his face?
No.
Saw your son the next day as well?
Yes.
Did you observe any injuries to him at any point in
None.
time? And you mentioned that you went over to your brother Brian Albert's house and both he and Mr. Higgins were there, correct?
Correct.
As far as your interactions with both Brian Albert and Brian Higgins that following day, what, if any, injuries did you observe on them that night?
None.
Now, with regard to the Nevercracker, what was sort of the origination of that?
It's a joke. It's so my son Dylan, who is my littlest one, he was cutting across John's lawn one day, coming home from the school, walking. This was before John had a fence that went this way, like on Pleasant Street. So it would just cut off like a couple of minutes. He ran across John's lawn one day. This is my littlest son, who I don't even know at the time. He might have been like 9, 10. I'm not sure exactly how old he was. And John yelled something to him. "Hey, kid, get off my lawn." So John was just making a joke. So Dylan got scared. He ran home and told my wife, Julie, and then Julie in turn called, called Jen maybe and said, "Hey, John just yelled at Dylan." And I think Jen reached out to John and John felt terrible. And John came down the street. John asked what kind of candy Dylan liked. And John brought Dylan a bag of candy and just said, "Hey, I was just kidding." It was just, so from that point on, we called him Mr. Nevercracker, and it was a joke between John. John thought it was funny. And
Now, as far as those photographs that you indicated that you took on his fence,
Yeah.
sent to him when he was away, is that correct?
correct.
That was after he'd asked you to watch his house
Yeah.
while he was away?
Yeah.
And how did he respond to those photographs?
He thought it was hilarious. We actually showed him, other people that photo too. They thought it was funny.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up, Mr. Allen.
One last
Wrap it
question.
up.
It's
So after you sent
late morning
the
break
text
time.
message as far
Let's go.
as to come over here and then made the reference to his lawn, Mr. O'Keefe then came over to the lawn.
Yeah, he came over after.
Nothing further.
Nothing further.
All right, you are all set, Mr. Albert. And
Thank you.
Jurors, we're going to take a recess. It's not going to be sitting there like the jurors. It's not going to be too long because I'm going to end at 12.
If the witness would just stay where you
Yeah,
are.
please
Thank you.
take it.
Sorry,
So
sorry.
that's okay. So-
Jurors, if you'd fold your notebooks, please do on your chairs. Follow me. All right, here we go.
So call about a 10-minute
You are
break, 'cause
muted.
I want to get more testimony.
10-minute break. All right. So at least I love I gotta give her credit. We know they're quick breaks. We know when they're coming back. I'm a big fan of that.
Hey there, Karen Reed, Trial Watch.
So what'd you think, Bob?
I don't know that it landed the way that Yannetti hoped that it would. I think that most people that are watching the trial that have an idea kind of the background, or at least also are privy to the information that there was this kind of this beef between Colin and John, that, you know, maybe thinking that Chris Albert was full of shit on the stand. If the jury doesn't know, just like in a just a completely objective way, if I'm a juror and I'm looking at that and I'm looking at those two photos, I'm thinking they're poking fun. I don't think that it was intended as, you know, an animus type thing, like fuck you, man, fuck you. You know what I mean? It did. Like, so I don't know that it landed the way that he hoped. I think that he did. I think that he was able to clear up, because Colin Albert, if you all don't know, is going to become a critical component to the defense's theory. As I think that they firmly believe that Colin is one of the people that rolled John O'Keefe in that house. So I think kind of the biggest takeaway for me is that I think Yannetti may have done enough with that whole, I got home, I was in bed, Colin came in, opened the door, said, I love you on direct. But then he testifies that he was asleep when Colin did that. So two things. One, did he actually even hear that? Did that actually take place? Or how would he know what time the kid got home? You know, if he knows he's at his brother's, it's not like, you know, he's hunting them down. Like when Cameron's out, our 17-year-old, you know, we have her on 360, Life 360. So we know where she's at. But like, I don't necessarily think that he's looking over at his clock to check and see what time his kid got home. So he may have done enough there to where he muddied the waters as to what time Colin actually gets home that night, because they need him obviously at the house, Colin at the house, by the time John would have walked into that house. So, and on the direct, that would have been prior to, like, that's why he went through that entire kind of rigmarole with like what time he left the bar, noting what time he left the bar. You're wearing clothes, you're wet, the conditions weren't great. It probably took you longer to walk than you think, blah, 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 blah. So we'll call it, you know, 12:20 when you get upstairs, you're on the 3rd floor, you got to walk up there, you got to change out of your wet clothes, you know, trying to establish a timeline there. So we'll see if he did enough, you know, because, and again, the jury has no idea who Colin Albert is or why he's pertinent or why any of that matters at this point. So, you know, they'll have to reflect back to that testimony and decide whether or not they thought Chris Albert was credible. You know, so, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I see in our chat, like, people, but again, we all know the facts, or at least we all know what's out there in terms of both theories of the case. So that clouds our ability to be objective completely. And like Sleuthy's like, he's full of shit, you know, but Sleuthy's very, very much frame up on this thing, you know. So for me, I'm certainly lean to the fact that I think that more likely than not, John O'Keefe got into that house. But obviously I haven't seen any of the expert testimony and it's like, how will that kind of exchange with trying to create this, like this neighborly feud between, Alberts and O'Keefe, like how did that land? If that landed with a thud, that may hurt him in terms of judging. Like they may find that he was credible, that Yannetti was poking a bear and was trying to make something out of nothing, and that may end up hurting him. So we'll see how it plays out. We'll see how
I
it
thought.
plays
I mean,
out.
I thought that, and I thought that like on redirect with Lally and just that story he told, that came off as credible to me. Like his son ran across the lawn. He said something to him. Then John was like, "Oh shit, I didn't mean to upset him. So here's his candy." And then we busted his chops. And those texts were like busting chops. It wasn't like
Totally.
like he put the emoji, the laughing emoji to the text. It looked like they were just kind of just, with the pictures. Like I agree with you. Like it didn't seem
Right. I mean,
malicious.
if he was trying to really like insult him, like Chris Albert would have been taking a shit on his front lawn, like that would have pissed him. Like he wouldn't have thought that was funny,
Right.
but him and his
Right.
wife was like first straddling on their side of the property. And then, and then Chris gets behind the fence and he's just on John's property. But, like Sleuthy's point was that John O'Keefe was extremely OCD about that kind of shit.
Right.
And we have gotten stuff that, that it irritated him that Karen would buy, the kids Dunkin' in the morning, or, nice sweaters. Like he was strict about certain things, So, I mean, it could be that John O'Keefe was very rigid about certain things, and that certain things that would really fucking irritate the shit out of him. You know what I mean? So
yeah, they
we'll
talked about
find,
putting the shoes on in his house. He did not like that. That was a big it's coming out that yeah. So that's a good point. That could come out.
and like we'll have to see. Like I'm assuming that they're going to establish that, not just through like, because I if I'm the defense, there's no way in hell I'm putting Karen on the stand. It's like trying to I just think that would be a disaster waiting to happen. Like she's like, for statements that she made early that morning, her trying to explain it, her getting into how much she may or may not have drank. It's just like it's filled with like landmines, like where she could just blow up the whole case with one bad answer. Plus, I think they made a mistake when they went ahead and did that 10-minute interview on Dateline.
Yeah.
She just like, they gave a lot of fodder for the state to be able to kind of come after her. So she should not be testifying. Like there is no way that I would be recommending that she testify. No way in hell. So they'll have to put on other witnesses to establish kind of John's personality, and whether or not that would be something that he would construe as something that would really bug the shit out of him, to the point where, and that they knew it. Albert saying that like he didn't think it was a big deal, but we all have those buddies, or we all have those people that we know that it's really easy to push a button.
Very true.
And you can push that button and it'll piss them off. You know what I mean? So like, I don't think that he was necessarily able to establish that with Chris Albert, but they may be able to establish it down the road. And speaking of which, I am not forgetting Delphi at all. Allie and I'm waiting for a thumbnail from Mandy. Allie and I are going to do a live, probably early evening, a Delphi live tonight, just to get everybody caught up and give some thoughts on what I think's going on with that. So keep an eye out for that on Twitter. Also on Facebook, we'll post when we're gonna go live with that. I wanted to do it tonight so we weren't butting up against Steve and Dan for Feral Friday, which will be tomorrow, obviously.
I wanted to show people. I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to show people something, because as far as, let me just show you guys right now. So make sure we talk about having, I mean, YouTube is not great with notifications, but let me share my screen here. Make sure, guys, if you are on, oh, now Bob is hitting. All right. So see, guys, you see this? This is on the website. I don't know as far as the app, but when you click on this little bell, make sure you have all on, because one reason you might not get notifications if this little bell is not on all. So that's just a little tip for folks who don't know. I mean, like I said, I know YouTube isn't great with it, and being on Seeking Justice, it would help if you're on the Discord as far as getting notifications, but there's like some different options here. When you click on that bell, make sure it's on all, because we can see in our like analytics, and I know for me, I don't know if you've checked yours, Bob, but it shows like who has, and a significant of people do not have it on all. So it could be just a heads up for maybe folks who are newer
Excellent
to YouTube.
tip.
Make sure
Excellent
it's on
tip.
all.
I don't even think I have it on all. For like,
I don't know if it defaults to all, but it should, but it might not. And you know, sometimes YouTube will just unsubscribe people. You know, so I don't, you know.
Yeah.
Just a little tip. Make sure to have that. So if Bob or I do go live, because I also sometimes will get comments like, "Oh man, I didn't know you were on Bob Chalias," or vice versa. I didn't know you were on my. Hopefully that will help. So just an idea.
Yeah, that's excellent tip. Thank you. Great tip.
They should be back any minute now, folks. So we're gonna have another witness. Clearly, you know, I like that Bev is like, let's get this. We're 10-minute break. We'll get another witness. This is a half day. We got stuff to do. So
yeah, and he likes to do families, it seems like. So it would make sense that this would be another Albert, right?
Absolutely. It's gotta be.
So I'm guessing Caitlin, maybe, right? Would seem like,
that is my guess. That's who I'm thinking about.
Yeah, that would make sense to me. Let's see. Let's see who else. Who else could it be? So Caitlin. I mean, I can't see him putting Colin on. I mean, maybe he could put Colin on, or you could put Julie on, but that's Chris's sister-in-law. So did they not list who was Chris's wife? Let's see, which Albert is that? Is she not listed?
Julie
Albert. Let's see. Do we see her? Oh yeah, Julie. Well, so okay, yeah, Brian's sister-in-law. Perfect. Okay, so that's Julie Albert. President Waterfall. Okay, so yeah, he likes to do the couples. 1, 2.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you're probably right. It's probably gonna be her. That's a good point.
That's a good question. That did not come out, T. It did not come out that it was who took the picture or who texted. It could, or maybe it did come out. Did it come out that it was either Julie or Chris texted? I think it was Chris Albert texted. Maybe.
I'm not
sure. I don't know, because they definitely showed the text from Chris to John O'Keefe, T, if you were there early or weren't there early, that Chris had texted him, get over to the waterfall. You know, if you don't, I'm going to fuck up your front yard or something like that. So that was that night, the night of the event. And then obviously the picture was from earlier. All right. Yeah. T makes a great point. Chris couldn't have, because he didn't have John's number till the 28th.
All right. There you go.
Yep. So yeah, that's a great point. Let's see, Mama K, Bob or Jay, do you think the dog and it being bites on Jarm's arms will be brought up? I mean, the defense is definitely going to bring it up.
And that's where we're getting some experts.
Yeah, no, I mean they're going to bring it up in the form of their forensic pathologist who examined the body, or at least examined the photographs after the fact. Will definitely be saying that they seem consistent with dog bites or scratches, you know, because like the state's kind of pushback on that thing was that, you know, like dogs have an upper and a lower jaw, you know, like if that's a bite around the elbow, you know, where's the bite marks on the lower? But, you know, I mean, if O'Keefe's laying on the ground, the dog can't get to the lower portion of his arm. you know, that would, you wouldn't have bite marks there if he's laying, if he's on the floor, the dog's like just going at him, or maybe they're all just scratch marks. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Like that'll be interesting testimony.
Well, not only the bites, but like the back. Like, how did he get the gash and the bump to the back of his head? Like, if he was, like, they're saying he was sit on the lawn, right? So how would he, if he was hitting the lawn, how would he have a massive gash or bruise on the back of his head? I'm struggling to.
I mean, if I'm the state, you know, or the Commonwealth, I'm saying, okay, well, he's struck. Obviously, when he's behind the truck, like he wasn't going to walk across the lawn, that his deal was he was going to walk down to the driveway and take the driveway up instead of cutting across the lawn, because we know how John O'Keefe is about lawns, right?
We have learned that.
You know, so he gets hit. This is what my argument, my theory, if I was the prosecutor on this case, I'd be saying, okay, well, he was behind the truck because we, like, as they've established, he's very persnickety about lawns. So like he was going to walk down to the driveway, take that up and enter the house. Karen reverses, hits him. He doesn't go down immediately, you know, or maybe he falls, gets down, but is able to get back up, you know, staggers into the lawn and collapses. You know, I mean, you're going to have to come up with a concept like that. So maybe that's where you get my biggest question. We've all seen that he's got the hoodie with the long sleeve hoodie on, and that's all he's wearing. I think it's established he did not have a puffy jacket on.
Yep.
Where does he get those injuries on his arm from being struck by the vehicle? That to me is the biggest question I have. I can see situations wherein he may have hit his head on the ground if he's knocked to the ground by the vehicle. I still have a problem with where are the injuries to the torso or the legs. I mean,
I
if
didn't
you
get that. Could you try again?
God, look at my Siri just butting in, yapping. So you know, but we did hear that his stomach area was distended. Like that was the first I had heard of any kind of potential internal injuries that may have been going on. So again, we're going to have to really hear what both MEs are saying and which one we think is the most credible, you know, because both, like, you have to understand, like the state's MEs, when you're going in and having a medical examiner that works for the government, you know, the cops will go in and they'll typically say, well, you know, this is what we think happened. They'll plant the seed, you know, and that's where the mindset of the ME will be. Even if it's not nefarious, like even if it's not like, oh, this is what we need you to say, you know, because obviously an ethical ME is going to be like, well, I'm not flat out lying here. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, but like, you can certainly plant to see, well, we believe that he was struck by a vehicle, you know, some like a SUV, and like that plants the seed at the ME, and that's kind of where they're going at with it. And then, you know, it's going to be the same with the defense. Like the defense is going to say what they think their theory is to wherever their expert is, you know. So we have to kind of give that consideration when we're listening to both sides of it.
You know, and speaking of, I talked about this with Ali when she was near death that morning that she came on and you were sleeping. But I was explaining, you know, when we all watched the Murdoch trial and they had that reconstructionist come in and say there could only be these two little gray boys that could have done it because they didn't take into any consideration that they could have been kneeling when they were shooting. They could have been
right.
So if an expert comes on like that, like we're all going to be like, either way, we're going to be like, there's no fucking way. So that's why, like, to me, like, I'm so interested to see the recon.
Me too.
That's going to be fascinating to me. Just to like, does it really make sense? What they're, you know, are, and you know, the one recon was just, you could tell, well, he was just didn't have this. And then they, you know, they bring up Dr. Kenny Kinsey, who was like clearly showing us, explaining us how it happened, and we're like, wow, yes, that fucking makes sense. So it's going to be so interesting, that part.
And dude, this is like my biggest question always with this case is this is a newer model Lexus. Like, I know the black box on my Audi, like if I strike something, it'll be in there. Like whether like it will, because I have sensors that go off, like it'll and it keeps all that data. You know what I'm saying? So like with this thing, it seems to me that if she struck something, whether it be John O'Keefe or John's car that was parked, that there would be some kind of indication that the sensors were triggered at the very least. So I don't know. Like, I mean, like we're talking about a luxury vehicle, that has, luxury vehicle accoutrement. So like, I'll be curious to see if we get that from either side, if that kind of evidence is going to come in, because that would be very helpful to me. It would be very helpful to all of us.
And that's going to go also back to the investigation because, from my experience with this stuff, you have to get that pretty quickly, because if the car does a certain amount of, I don't know what the word is that they use when, when you turn it on and off, it erases it because it's only keeps so much information. So what information did they get? Did they get it in time? And there's a lot of question already into their investigation of when they got the vehicle, what they did with that vehicle. Obviously, we talk about the taillight, that is obviously gonna be massive for the defense to talk about, and there's some missing, from what I understand, there's some missing footage. So all of that is gonna
huge. Well, how long, they didn't get Murdoch's OnStar shit for a long time.
So
right?
the trial, they got the I think the day of the during the trial, they finally they had to call a guy in to make sure, that was.
And they had a lot of information still, when he was turning the ignition on, right? I mean, it was they had and that was months after. So, I mean, we'll have to see where that kind of stuff lands. But I mean, there's still a lot to go. I've been seeing comments, and some people think this is a little bit of a slow trial. And I wouldn't necessarily disagree with the last few days, but trust me when I tell you this thing's going to be heating up in very, very intense fashion, I think, in the very near future. Right now, the state's not trying to touch anything other than, establish a timeline right now. So it's kind of dry testimony, and they're just putting witnesses on that this is kind of how the day went. This is where the folks were at. They were at a couple of bars. They ended up at the waterfall. And, we really haven't gotten to the nitty gritty yet. That's all to come. So it has definitely been a slow burn, because I had seen a comment in there today about Chad, being a very slow trial, but still a fascinating trial. And which is true, because the elements of that case are just so bizarre, with everything that's going Allie and I just loved that case when we were doing Lori Vallow's thing, because of just how weird it was. It was such an unusual backstory, and with the elements of the religion and this kind of little cult they had going on, and just everything that was part and parcel of that case was fascinating to us. And to me, the intersection of First Amendment, right to practice whatever religion and believe in whatever you want, and the intersection with the criminal justice system, it was fascinating to me. And the fact that she didn't allow for them to do some kind of mental defect defense, and she was so dug into, did she really believe all this shit? So I get it, but trust me, this one's going to be a banger. I love all of it now. I think it's a fascinating trial, but different. This is much more of a factual scenario. What happened? Who did it? It's a whodunit to me, whereas Chad's not a whodunit.
Right.
It's we know who did it, but did Chad do it as well? Did he have an actual hand in it? So, yeah.
By the way, did you see your girl testified the other day? I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before. Zulema testified. So
Zulema, yeah. I did.
No, there's no court this afternoon, Tracy. This is a half day. They do Tuesdays and Thursdays, and at 1:00 Eastern time. So about an hour and a half to go. If you're coming in late, first of all, thanks for being here. Second of all, we just had Chris Albert, and this break seems like it's longer than 10 minutes, but
it does.
I wonder if they're doing something right now that's not being
chatting it up about something.
So, but we're gonna have another witness. Canoni was very clear that she wanted to, but clearly something's happening because they're not going as fast as she wanted. So, yeah, and tomorrow will be on my channel, and then we just keep switching every day. And we appreciate. We got over 1,200 people combined. Thank you so much again.
Love it.
If you're on Twitter, come over. If you're on YouTube, hit that like. Make sure you subscribe. Holy shit! There we go. KCKR gifted. Oh, I hear noise. I think. Thank you so much, KCKR.
Oh, love it. Thank you, KCKR. I love when people spread the love. Judge Bev.
There we go.
Thank you. Please be seated. Close your eyes.
All right, Mr. Lally, your next witness, please.
May we approach before the next witness is called? Laura?
Okay.
What the hell? So they were just on break that whole time?
I mean,
They're approaching
everybody
now?
was smoking cigs. I got to go out and smoke a cig.
Elizabeth, I didn't call her Judge Cannoli, but that is pretty funny. I don't think I did. Maybe I did. We've been talking about Zeppelis lately, and
I want to tell you, I love a cannoli.
Chicky parms.
Chicky palms. Let's see. Your lower back, Kelly bow belly, because her lower back keeps falling asleep. It's an odd feeling. It is odd. I don't know if my lower back's ever falling asleep. My butt's
All right, so
definitely.
Mr. Lally, who's your next witness?
Call Miss Julie Albert to the stand.
Oh, here we
Okay.
go.
There
You
we
called
go.
it.
There we go.
Mention it again. You solemnly swear the evidence you give the court and jury in the case now and here should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
All right, whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the jury?
Julie Albert, Albert.
And where do you live now?
I live at 22 Maple Street in Canton.
And how long have you lived with you?
A little over 2 years,
And how long in total have you lived in Canton?
my whole life, 48 years.
And where did you live just prior to living on Maple?
I lived at 7 Meadows Avenue in Canton.
And how long period of time did you live at 7 Meadows Avenue?
15 plus 20 years, about 20 years.
And do you have kids?
Yes, I have 3 boys.
And are you married?
Yes, I am.
What's your husband's name?
Christopher Albert.
And your 3 boys, how old are they?
My oldest, Christopher, is 25. My second son, Colin, is 20. And my youngest son, Dylan, is 16.
And do each of them, where do they live? Do they live with you?
They all live with me, yes.
And your husband, does he work?
Yes,
What does he do?
he owns a restaurant in Canton,
What's the name of the restaurant?
D&E Pizza,
And where is that located?
618 Washington Street.
Now, when you lived on Meadows Avenue, can you describe to the jury sort of, if you know, about how many houses are on Meadows?
I would say maybe 8 on each side.
And Meadows comes out to a main road, is that correct?
Yes, Pleasant Street.
And while you were living on Meadows Avenue, did you have occasion to come to know someone by the name of John Oakey?
Yes, I did.
And where did John live in relation to you?
John's house was at the top of the street, and there's 2 houses. There was 2 houses between John's house and my house.
And if you recall, about how long have you known John O'Keefe, or when did he move into Meadows?
I think he moved in 2017-ish, maybe. And I've probably known him since maybe 2019.
And how would you describe sort of your relationship with John?
We were friendly. We were neighbors. You know, I'd see him all the time coming in and out of the street, and because he's at the top of the street when I pulled out of the street, and we were friendly.
And in addition to you knowing Mr. O'Keefe, were there other sort of people that, that knew you that also knew him?
Yes, yes.
Who were some of those?
Well, I knew John through Jennifer McCabe.
And who is Jennifer McCabe?
She's one of my closest friends.
Now, you knew that John had 2 children that he was guardian for?
Yes,
And you were familiar with both his niece and his nephew?
yes.
Now, at some point through Mr. O'Keefe, did you come to know somebody by the name of Karen?
Yes.
When about was it that you met Ms.
Maybe in like 2021, like, you know, pulling in and out of the street if they were outside, if, you know, a couple times out socially, probably in 2021, I would say.
And if you could, just so we're clear, do you see Ms. Reed in the courtroom?
Yes, between her lawyers right over there.
That's a record of like identification
Okay.
by the witness. Now, on some social occasions that you were talking about, when you would see them out, would you see, would you have occasion to socially interact with Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Is that something that like you and your husband did together, or was it more of a group setting type?
No, a group setting.
And with reference to, did you have occasions where you would socially hang out or interact with Mr. O'Keefe in which Ms. Reed wasn't there?
I can only honestly remember one time, and that was, I don't even know if they were together at the time.
And had you ever socially interacted or spent time with Ms. Reed separate and apart from Mr. O'Keefe?
No.
Now, if I could turn your attention to January 28th, 2022. Do you recall that day?
Yes.
Do you recall what day of the week it was?
Friday.
And what, if anything, did you have plans for that particular evening?
The next day was my nephew's birthday. So we were all, a bunch of us were going to go out that night, the night before, to a bar in Canton.
By the night before, you mean the night before his birthday?
Yes.
And that nephew, what was that nephew's name?
Brian Jr.
And if you know about how old was he turning, or how, well, let me start with this. How old is he now?
He's 24.
So just turned 24 a few months ago?
January. Yep.
And so he would have been turning, what, 22 at that point?
Yes.
When we say we had plans to sort of go out, who's the we?
Myself, his mother, Nicole, my niece, Caitlin, and a couple of Brian's friends.
Now, and you mean Brian Jr.'s friends?
Yes.
And so Brian Albert Jr. has a mother named Nicole Albert, is that correct?
Yes.
And how is she related to you?
She's my sister-in-law. Our husbands are brothers.
So your husband Christopher has a brother?
Brian.
Okay. That would be sort of
Brian Sr.
for lack
Yep.
of a better term.
Yep.
Your husband Christopher, how many siblings does he have?
6.
And Brian is the oldest?
The oldest, yes.
And so there were plans to go out that evening, the day before Brian Albert Jr.'s birthday, correct?
Yes.
And what were the plans? What did they sort of consist
We were just going to go to Waterfall.
of? Is Waterfalls, where is it?
It's a bar in Canton on Washington Street.
And from your husband's pizza shop at D&E to the Waterfall, about how far away are the two from each other?
Very close. I mean, 200 steps maybe. You can, very, very close.
Same side of the street or?
No, opposite sides.
Now, when it came to that day, where did you go? Did you go to the Waterfall first or somewhere else, or if you know?
I went to my sister-in-law Nicole's house to pick her up.
And you know the address where your sister-in-law and your brother-in-law live?
34 Fairview, where they lived, 34 Fairview Road.
And that was somewhere that you had been numerous occasions before?
Yes.
And when you arrived at 34 Fairview Road, you went inside the house?
I think I went inside for a moment, yeah, just to wait.
And do you know who, if anyone, did you see in there that you knew or recognized or didn't?
I know my niece Caitlin was in there, my nephew Brian. I don't recall. I don't recall who else was in there.
Your sister-in-law, Nicole, was she there?
Yeah, she was ready to leave. Yep.
And when you left, I'm using sort of you in the plural, so you drove, is that correct?
I drove. Yep.
And who, if anyone, went along with you in your car?
Nicole, my sister-in-law, and Caitlin, my niece, and Brian did not end up coming with us.
And so your nephew Brian, for whom you had initially made the plans to go out and celebrate, didn't end up coming?
Correct.
And why was that?
I don't think he was feeling up to it.
And if you know about what time was it that you picked your sister-in-law and your niece up and then went to work?
I don't remember exactly, but I would probably say between maybe 7:30 and 7:30, like around 7:30 maybe.
And you arrive at the waterfall, you go in. If you could just explain for the jury sort of when you walk into the door of the waterfall, where was it that the three of you went?
When you walk into the door, there's a couple high top tables, long high top tables in front of you. And we just sat down at a high top table right when you walk through the door.
Now, from your experience either that evening or prior evenings, on certain nights, does the waterfall have any kind of sort of entertainment?
Yeah, they always have, every week's different. They have bands.
And from your recollection, was there a band there that night?
Yes, there was.
And do you recall where you were seated in relation to the band?
I was sitting at the end of the high top table closest to the door that you walk in, and the band was to the right of me against a wall and kind of like an alcove, like a little against the wall.
And when you went there, was the band already sort of set up and playing, or did that happen later?
I think they set up while we were there. I think.
And so initially when you go there, do you go there and just have drinks, or did you eat something, or what?
We ate, and yeah.
And while you were there, as far as during sort of the meal portion of it, was there anyone else that joined you?
I know my niece's boyfriend, Tristan Morris, came. I don't remember exactly when it was during that, but I know he was there. And then during the meal part, I don't think during the meal part anyone else, I don't think.
So you recall, as far as the meal part was concerned, it's you, your sister-in-law Nicole, your niece Caitlin, and her boyfriend Tristan.
Correct.
And Mr. Morris, did he stay for any extended period of time, or when was it that he left?
I know he stayed for a little bit, but I honestly can't remember what time exactly he left.
Now, your husband, was he working on that day?
Yes, he was.
And had you been in communication with him as to where you were going to be?
Yes.
And so the plan was basically for him to meet you at the waterfall when he was done with work?
Correct, yes.
And if you know about what time was it that your husband, Christopher, came over to the waterfall?
Maybe not 9:30, 10, maybe. I don't
And
remember
want you to
exactly.
guess, just
Yeah.
if you know approximate time.
Yeah.
So at some time around 9:30 or so, your husband Christopher comes over to the waterfall?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did he do when he got?
Came in, yeah.
He came in, did he get anything to eat, anything to drink?
Yeah, he probably ordered a drink and just stood by the table, I would think.
And you and the people in your group, were you drinking that night?
Yes.
What is it, do you recall specifically what you had to drink?
I think I had just a couple glasses of wine.
And your husband, do you recall specifically what he had that night?
What he would drink is Miller Lite.
And that's sort of typically what he would drink when he
Yes.
was out?
Yes.
And your sister-in-law, Nicole, do you recall what she was drinking?
I would assume White Claw, a White Claw.
And same question
White
with
Claw.
regard to your niece, Kate.
Who cares?
Yes,
Who cares
probably
what
White
these
Claw as
people are
well.
drinking?
Now, while you were there, who, if any, so after your husband came in, who, if anyone else, sort of came in and joined the group that you were with?
My brother-in-law, Brian Albert, and his friend Brian Higgins.
And obviously, you know your brother-in-law, Brian Albert, correct?
Mhm.
And
Is that yes?
you know,
Yes,
thank you. You just have to answer obviously. So, did you know Mr. Higgins as well?
yes.
And how did you know Mr. Higgins?
I just know him from being friends with my brother-in-law.
So you knew him just sort of through your brother-in-law, Brian, is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And do you know when they arrived in relation to when your husband Chris arrived?
I'm gonna tell Allie you said that.
I
She's a
don't,
girl.
I don't recall.
At some point after, correct?
Yes.
And after they arrived, who, if anyone else, do you recall sort of arriving and joining in your group?
Jennifer McCabe and Matt McCabe. And there was a couple, I don't even know their name, Colakitis. They arrived. I don't know their first names. And John and Karen arrived shortly after that.
And just so we can clear up people, as far as Jennifer McCabe, you've already mentioned her, and Matthew, is that her husband?
Yes.
And the other couple that you were talking about, or sort of guessing their names, have you ever met them before?
No. Nope.
Not anybody that you're particularly friends with or anything like that?
No. I know them, who they are, from seeing them maybe at a sporting event or something, but I've never been introduced to them. No.
And we say sort of sporting events in relation to what?
If they were at like a basketball game and I was at a game, like I've just seen them around. I'm assuming probably sporting events, probably a basketball game.
And I'm sure it's pretty well understood with this. I just want to clarify. So when you say sporting events, these are kids' sporting events?
Kids sporting events, yes.
And so which kids' sporting events would you be at that you would see this couple that you didn't know? Your kids or something?
No, Jennifer McCabe's kids.
Okay. So you would go to sporting events with Jennifer McCabe's kids and see this couple?
Yes.
And if you know about how long after this Brian Albert and Mr. Higgins arrived, did the McCabe's and this other couple arrive?
I don't remember exactly.
But after Mr. Albert and Mr. Higgins, correct?
Correct.
Now then, you mentioned Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed came in at some point as well?
So you have
Yes.
to make sure you say yes or no, okay? And the other thing you say, I assume or I guess, don't answer. If you don't know, you don't.
Okay.
And if you know, about what time was it that Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed?
So before 11 o'clock?
Okay. And with reference to when Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant, Ms. Reed, came into the waterfall, where were you in relation to sort of the high top table that you were describing?
I was at the top of the high top table closest to the door.
And when they came in, where did Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant go?
John walked in and said hello and kept on walking, I think, to the bar. And Karen came in and stopped at the table to talk for a minute.
And during the time that she stopped at the table to talk for a minute, what, if anything, did she do?
She opened her jacket and had a glass and pulled the glass out and started drinking the drink.
And as far as the drink in the glass, what, if anything, did you observe as far as color or anything?
Clear.
And the glass that she had, could you see, so the clear liquid inside it, how much of the glass was full of that?
I don't recall.
And she placed it on the table, is that correct?
Yes.
And what was your reaction to that?
I think I laughed and said, made a comment like, you're crazy or something, just because she walked in with the glass.
And did you know where Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed had been coming from prior to them getting to the waterfall?
Yes.
And where were they coming from?
CF McCarthy's.
You're familiar with that establishment?
Yes.
And where is that in relation to the waterfall?
It's maybe 200 steps right next to my husband's restaurant.
So on the same side of.
Opposite
Washington
side.
Street?
Opposite side.
On the same side of Washington Street as your husband's restaurant?
Yes.
In the same vicinity from D&E to Waterfall, so you have.
Yes.
Water.
Yes.
Now, over the course of the evening, did you have occasion to see Mr. O'Keefe? He was at a bar, he had something to drink, is that correct?
Can you repeat that?
Over the course of the evening, did you have occasion to observe what, if anything, Mr. O'Keefe was drinking?
No, I don't believe. I left very shortly after they got there.
And so you left fairly shortly after they arrived?
Yes,
And if you know, about how much time are we talking?
maybe 10, 15 minutes.
And why is it that you left?
I had a terrible migraine.
From the band being so close?
Yes,
And when you left, where did you go?
home.
And when you got home, as far as your children on that evening, who was home, who was out? If you know?
My youngest son was home, and my oldest son didn't live at home. He lived in California at the time. And my middle son was not home.
And so your oldest son, Christopher, he was in the Navy at that point?
He was in the Navy, and he was stationed in San Diego, yes.
And so your middle son, Colin, he was out, did you know where he was?
Vagina.
Yes, he was at, I believe, his friend Michael Leonetti's house.
And at some point, did you learn that Colin had gone from that person's house to somewhere else?
Yes,
Is this him communicating with you?
yes,
And that other place that he went to, you know where that was?
yes. My brother and sister-in-laws, Nicole and Brian Albert's house on Fairview Road.
And was that in relation to your nephew and his birthday?
Yes,
Now, while you were, if I could take it back to the waterfall just for a second. So while you were at the waterfall, obviously you see Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed come in. Do you recall what Mr. O'Keefe was wearing?
I know he had a hat on, he had jeans on, and he had something with a hood.
And from your observations, did you ever see him with like a winter coat or a jacket or anything like that?
I did not.
And with regard to the clothing that you observed him wearing, what, if anything, did you observe as far as the condition of that clothing? And that, I mean, was it torn? Was it disheveled? Anything like that?
No, nothing that I remember.
And with regard to Mr. O'Keefe, as far as his appearance, what, if anything, did you observe about him as far as injuries or anything?
Nothing.
Now, with reference
I do
to
that?
your group as far as at the water,
Yes.
how would you describe sort of the overall demeanor or tone of the group and what was going on there?
Just normal. I thought it was just normal. Sitting listening to a band.
So at least during the time that you were there were no sort of arguments or disagreements or anything like that?
Nope, nothing.
And specifically to Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant, Ms. Reed, while you were there, during the short time that you were there when they were there, did you observe anything as far as any arguments or disagreements or anything like that?
No, I did not.
Now, at the time, so during that time between when they arrived, you mentioned that John went up to the bar, correct?
Yes.
And where did the defendant go?
She talked to me at the top of the table for a few minutes, and then I believe she made her way down the table to either Jennifer McCabe or the couple that was at the end of the table to speak with.
And was it during that period of time that you had enough with the migraine and went home?
Yes, I left very, very shortly after that.
During the time that you were there and you were speaking with the defendant down sort of your end of the table, what, if anything, was discussed as far as sort of where to go, what to do after the walk?
I do know that, I do remember, I'm sorry, that Karen had asked if we could go back to D&E, my husband's store, and make pizza, because that's something we frequently do if we're out at the end of the night, if we're hungry.
And was that something that you had discussed with Ms. Reed either on that date or on a prior day?
I believe we discussed just that we went there once, and we said next time she'll have to come with us.
Was that something that was discussed as a possibility or something that was going to happen that night?
I think right away, I just wasn't going to do that because I wasn't feeling well. And I think I might have said, talk to Chris, because I wasn't going to do it.
And is that something that she mentioned over the course of that evening, once, more than once, or something?
Just once to me.
So when you get home, at some point, the rest of your family came home at some point in the evening, correct?
Yes,
And who came home first? Your husband, Christopher, or your son, Colin?
my husband.
You know about what time that was?
I want to say about after 12, maybe 12:10, around there.
So sometime around 12:10?
Sometime around 12:10, yes.
And what, if anything, do you recall specifically about when your husband, Christopher, came?
He came upstairs to my room. He was shivering because it was cold out. And he immediately went to the bathroom, got undressed, and got into bed.
And your son, Colin, have you been in communication with him
Yes.
over the evening?
Yes.
And about how long was it after your husband came home that your son called?
10 to 15 minutes.
And were you essentially waiting up for him?
Oh, yes. Yep.
Is that sort of common practice?
Yes. I do not go to bed until my kids are home.
And is there another common practice as far as when your kids come home, where do they go when they first come in?
They immediately will always come in the door, maybe grab a water out of the fridge and come upstairs and give me a kiss goodnight and tell me that they're home.
Now, did that happen on this occasion?
Yes.
And so Colin came into your room at some point?
Yep. He came right upstairs. Yes.
And when Colin came into your room and he came upstairs, did you have occasion to observe him as far as talk to him, obviously?
Yes. We talked for a minute. He asked me if I was feeling better. And yeah, we talked for a moment.
And during that conversation that you had with Colin, similar to what I had asked you with regard to Mr. O'Keefe, what, if any, injuries or anything did you observe on your son, Colin?
None.
And fair to say the next day, at some point, you talked to and had interaction with your son?
Yes.
What, if any, injuries or anything did you observe?
None. None.
So I know this is sort of hard, so wait till Mr. Lally finishes his question before answering, okay? Thank you.
Now,
How
after your
did
son
Colin
Colin
know
came
she
home,
wasn't feeling well?
and you eventually went to bed, is that right?
Yes.
And
What's that, Bob?
How did Colin know she wasn't feeling well?
Good question. Also, is the state going to be the first one who brings up the theory that they're talking about his, like, wouldn't you, if you're on the jury, like, why are they talking about her son's injuries right now? Like,
Right.
the defense hasn't said specifically anything about that, right? Like,
Right.
that's the first time they're hearing, like, why would they be asking her about her son being injured in this case with, you know?
Yeah, but like, how would Colin know she had a
turning your
migraine?
attention to the next one, the Saturday morning of the 29th. About what time was it that you woke up?
I woke up about 8-ish.
Give me the answer there.
And with regard to your nephew, Brian Jr., whose birthday it was now on the 29th, what, if any, sort of tradition do you have with respect to him this birthday?
Every year on his birthday, I go to Dunkin' Donuts. I get him 6 donuts and I bring them to the house and I leave them there with a card before he gets up. So when he wakes up, they're there. I've been doing it for years.
Good old
And
Duncan.
is that what your intention was on this morning as well?
Yes.
Is that what you did on that?
Yes.
Now, when you woke up, probably like most people, at some point did you look at your phone?
Yes.
And when you looked at the screen to your phone, what, if anything, did you see?
I had a missed call from my friend Jen McCabe.
And was there any sort of notation in regard to the missed call as to what time that missed call had come in?
It was 5:55 maybe.
So sometime earlier in the morning.
Early morning, yes.
And beyond the missed call, was there any other sort of stamp or notification on the phone as far as a voicemail, text message?
Nope. I'm sorry. No, there was not.
And not from Miss McCabe, correct?
Correct.
and not from anybody else?
Correct.
And at any point in time on that morning over the phone, did you speak with Ms. McCabe?
No, I did not.
And did you call her? So you didn't call her back or anything like that?
I did not.
And so after you wake up, at some point you go to Dunkin' Donuts and get the 6 donuts?
Yes,
And where did you go with those?
I drove to 34 Fairview.
And when you arrived at 34 Fairview, where did you park in relation to the house?
I pulled into the driveway.
And when you came up to the house and you were driving to the house at this point, what was the weather like?
It was coming down, the snow was coming down pretty good.
And with reference to the house, what, if anything, did you notice out of the ordinary with regard to the house or the street or anything else?
Jennifer McCabe's car was in the driveway.
And as far as any other vehicles on the street or anything like that, what was going on at that point?
I don't recall. I don't.
Nothing you can recall?
No.
Oh, what time was this that you got there?
8:30, 9 o'clock, 8:30, around that.
And when you get there, you pull in the driveway, what did you do?
I opened my car door. I got out to walk to the car in front of me to leave the donuts and card inside my nephew Brian's car. And Brian Albert came to the door. Brian Albert Sr. came to the door and he told me to come in, asked me to come in for a second. And I said that I didn't need to. And he said, I'm just leaving get this gift for Brian Jr. And he said, no, just come in for a second. So I went into the house.
And when you walk into 34 Fairview Road on that morning, who, if anyone else was there?
Nicole Albert, Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, Jennifer McCabe, and Matt McCabe.
And where were they in relation to the house?
In the kitchen.
And what, if anything, did they tell you at that time?
When I first walked in, nothing. Everyone was just sitting there and I was looking around and everyone was visibly upset. And I asked what's going on. And another maybe 30 seconds went by and Jen said, something's happened to John. And I said, John, she said, John O'Keefe. And I said, is he okay?
Objection.
No, I'm going to allow it.
I said, is he okay? And she said, we don't know. And that was that.
And after hearing that information, how long were you at your brother and sister-in-law's house that night?
Probably about half hour, 45 minutes, maybe.
And where did you go from there?
I went home to wake my husband up to let him know what had happened.
And at some point after you go home and wake up your husband, where did you and your husband go?
We went back to I woke up my husband, told him what had happened, and we went back to Fairview.
And so the second time that you had gone back to Fairview, how long a period of time were you there that?
I would say probably half hour, not long.
And then after that half hour or so, where'd you go out?
Back home to my house.
During either of those occasions when you were at 34 Fairview Road on the morning of the 29th, you had occasion to talk and observe Brian Albert Sr., correct?
Yes.
And similar to the questions that I asked you with regard to Mr. O'Keefe and your son Colin, what, if any, injuries or anything out of place did you note with respect to Brian Albert Sr.?
Nothing that I saw.
And, same question with respect to Mr. Higgins, as far as you made observations and spoke at least in the same room as him on that morning?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did you observe as far as injuries or anything else on Mr. Higgins?
Nothing.
And when you woke up your husband that next morning, your other two sons, being Colin and Dylan, they were at home still?
Yes, they were at home still asleep.
And with regard to when you went to Fairview, came back with your husband, went back to Fairview, and then came back again, were they still asleep?
I don't remember.
You recall, well, let me put it this way. As far as your sons, did either of your sons come back with you to Fairview Road that day?
No, they did not.
And do you recall whether or not either Colin or Dylan was awake when you left the second time to go to Fairview?
I don't.
At some point, a few days after this, did you have occasion to meet with a couple troopers from the state police?
Yes, I did. They came to my home.
When you say they, how many of them came to you?
There were 2.
And you spoke to them that day in reference to what you had observed at the waterfall, everything you just testified.
Yes, I did.
May I have one moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Just one last question. When you, Mrs. Albert, when you came over to Fairview Road that first time with the donuts, as far as the inside of the house, what, if anything, did you observe as far as the condition of the home or anything about the home that seems abnormal or out of place or off, from the evening before when you were there?
Nothing.
I have nothing further for this witness, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Gianetti?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Albert.
Good afternoon.
You and I have never met, correct?
Correct.
I just wanted to pick up on a question and an answer that Mr. Lally asked you and that you responded to. He had just asked you whether or not a few days later you spoke with a couple of state troopers. Do you recall that question?
Yes.
And your answer was yes?
Yes.
You would agree with me that it was more than just a few days later, correct?
I don't
It was February 10th of 2022 that 2 state troopers came to speak with you and your husband, Chris, correct?
Correct.
And so we're talking about 13 days later, almost 2 weeks later, correct?
If that was the date, yes, correct.
Prior to February 10th, no investigator from this case bothered to talk to you or your husband, correct?
Correct.
Now, in terms of the 2 investigators who did come, you knew one of them quite well, did you not?
I knew them. I wouldn't say quite well, but I knew them.
Okay, and when you say you knew them.
Him. I'm sorry, him.
Okay, and who was it that you knew?
Michael Proctor.
Michael Proctor was the brother of one of your close friends, correct?
Correct.
You're close friends with Courtney Proctor, correct?
I am.
And by the way, your maiden name is Daniels, correct?
Yes, it is.
And you have a sister, Jill Daniels, correct?
Yes, I do.
And you would agree that Jill Daniels is also lifelong best friends with Courtney Proctor, correct?
Yes, she is.
And in terms of your relationship with Courtney Proctor, you socialize with her, do you not?
Objection.
Do you?
Occasionally, yes.
Go out for drinks with her, correct?
Yes.
You've attended parties with her, correct?
Yes.
You've also provided childcare for her children, correct?
Yes.
Objection. Move to strike.
All right, I'll see you on sidebar on this, Ms. Gianetti. So everybody.
Sidebar, sorry. Ethan is home, folks. That's the news for me. Ethan is home now. And we're live. Okay. So I guess I could take this fucking thing off. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. And then apparently at like 1:30 or 2, the person's nurse is coming to like hook up the pick thing, whatever the hell that entails. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Ethan's home.
He just FaceTimed me. He's like, I thought you said you were live. I'm like, yeah, I'm on Bob's show.
Aw. Welcome home, buddy.
No, he just has to. The lady has to. The nurse, I guess, has to come and he's like, shows me, and he's got this friggin', he's got a hose coming out, like a
hose, a medicine hose.
Yeah. Do you know what? Why are we sidebarring? Do we have an objection that we have to discuss?
Yeah, some kind of objection. Which, of course, we don't know what it is.
Mr. Wiggly. About her sister. All right, there we go. All right, it's not a hose. Sorry, I'm not good with words and such.
A hose. It's a hose in my world. Giant medicine hose in his arm.
So clearly we're not getting another witness today. I'm sure when I would assume, I guess it depends on it, but I would assume they're not calling another witness, but I guess we'll see.
No, it depends on what time they wrap it.
Right.
The cross here. I imagine this will probably be like a 12 to 15-minute cross, which would put us at about 11:30, 35, something like that.
He asked if she Sleuthy says he asked if she babysat for the Proctors. She said yes, and Lally objected and moved to strike. Interesting. Yes, a pick line. He has a pick line. First I've ever heard of a pick line. That's what he has. Kansas Kel says, hey guys, do I have to be a paid subscriber to be eligible for a free membership? No, you don't. You just have to click on. I just have a gift command. Let's see. You just have to allow gifts, and then you can get one. You don't have to be a subscriber to.
So, Ms. Albert, you provided childcare for Courtney Proctor's children.
Objection.
Need a time frame, Mr. Newman.
Have you ever provided childcare for Courtney Proctor's children?
Objection.
So you need a time frame.
Before January of 2022, did you provide childcare for Courtney Proctor's children?
Yes.
When?
$2019. 2019.
Just that 1 year?
Yeah, it was pre-COVID. And then when COVID happened and everything shut down, I wasn't helping her any longer.
Okay.
And then occasionally after, I would help just on an as needed basis. after COVID.
And during that year of 2019, how often did you watch her children?
2 days a week.
And she had a boy and a girl?
Correct.
What were their names?
Jack and Caroline.
And Jack and Caroline were Trooper Proctor's niece and nephew, correct?
Yes.
The Proctor family entrusted you with the care of their children, correct?
Objection.
It's sustained as asked.
You know that Michael Proctor is a state trooper, correct?
Yes.
You knew that he also was from Canton?
Yes.
You knew his wife, Elizabeth Proctor?
Yes.
And you were also aware that Courtney Proctor had recommended you to also watch Michael Proctor and Elizabeth Proctor's children, correct?
Objection, move to strike.
That objection sustained.
But you go back a long way with Courtney Proctor, correct?
Correct.
In fact, you were certainly at her wedding, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Your son was a ring bearer at that wedding.
Objection.
All right, so we'll sustain that through this witness.
You've spent time at Michael Proctor's childhood home, have you not?
Yes.
You've been to the pool at the Proctor's house, correct?
Yes.
I heard him say, "I have that pool photo." I believe, if I heard that hot mic, I believe he said, "I have
May we
that."
approach?
Yeah, he's got something he's bringing up there. He wants to show. Yeah, I thought I heard. I know she's lying too, Sleuthy. There was something I have that pool photo, and then yeah, I think Teresa says it too. I know she's lying. That was a hot mic moment.
Hot mic. The blood oath. I mean, we usually have like nieces or nephews, whoever's got whatever family member has like a young kid act as ring bearer and flower girls typically. So there's some, it's definitely indicates you're pretty tight. I mean, I think there's no question Proctor should not have been touching this case at all.
Thank you, Renee. I'm glad Allie's not here because I got to update the ticker. This is cross-examination. I would have been in big trouble.
She's en route.
All right, it's updated. No one say anything to Allie that I messed up.
I'm texting her right now that you didn't have it up.
He asked.
Clack.
He asked if she's ever been at the Proctor's house, and then he asked if she's ever been at their pool. But I thought she said yes. Didn't she admit to it? Or
I thought she did. I thought she did too. Dawn, it all relates to the earlier ruling about the third-party culprit defense. Like she's forcing them to try to get their theory in through cross. So she limits certain things. How she picks what, I don't know.
Say maybe a dozen?
And you've certainly taken your children there as well?
Yes.
Colin has been to the Proctor's pool?
Yes.
And you've seen Michael Proctor's mother and father at that pool, correct?
Yes.
You've seen Courtney Proctor and her husband at that pool, correct?
Yes.
You are very close with Courtney Proctor, correct?
How would you define very?
Well, I guess I'd ask you to define very close. Do you deny that you were very close with Courtney Proctor?
No.
Objection, Your Honor.
No, go ahead. Next question. You got your answer.
I didn't hear the answer.
Go ahead, repeat that.
Do you deny that you were very close with Courtney Proctor?
No.
Okay. You talk regularly, correct?
Yes.
You text each other, correct?
Yes.
You also talk by phone.
Very rarely.
Is it fair to, did you say very rarely you talk to
Phone.
Courtney
Usually,
Proctor by phone?
usually it's text.
But do you stand by that testimony that you talk to Courtney Proctor very rarely by phone?
Do we have a time frame? Do you mean now or do you mean then?
How about ever?
Let me ask you this. Between February 1st of 2022 and September 6th of 2022, did you only speak rarely with Courtney Proctor?
I don't recall.
Were you using Courtney Proctor as an intermediary to communicate with Michael Proctor about this case?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No, I was not.
Are you aware that between February 1st of 2022 and September 6th of 2022, you and Courtney Proctor spoke by phone 67 times?
Objection.
Were you aware of that?
No, I don't know the exact count.
Do you deny that you spoke 67 times?
I don't deny it, but I don't recall the exact amount of times.
Okay, so you don't deny that you spoke 67 times. You still want to maintain your testimony that you only talked very rarely with Courtney Proctor during that time period.
I just don't remember the exact amount of times.
Well,
I mean, if it's in
you
the
know
50s,
that
60s.
my client, Karen Reed, was arrested in connection with this case on February 1st of 2022. Do you not?
I do.
You spoke to Courtney Proctor that date for 12 minutes by phone, correct?
I don't recall exactly. I don't remember exactly.
May I approach?
Sure.
Before I approach,
Mhm.
your memory is exhausted as to whether you spoke to Courtney Proctor that day, and if so, how long the two of you spoke?
Yes.
I haven't had 67 phone calls in my life.
Sure.
67?
It's a lot. It's a lot of
I
chat.
mean, I really was thinking like during her direct, like she seemed to be like being straightforward, but man, is she being evasive now. I mean, of course she's not gonna be really evasive on direct, but jeez.
I'm showing you a document with a number of.
Just show it to us.
Right, no, I just wanted to point out which one that I'm pointing out. So the third, I was missing a number of lines. The third line down, if you would take a look at that specific date and time and see if that refreshes your memory about whether and how long you spoke to Courtney Proctor on February 1st, 2022.
Can you see that or do you need glasses?
No, I can see it.
I do have a pair of readers that I need as well if you need to borrow them.
Yes, if I could.
Of course.
Thank you. I
And,
left mine downstairs.
I just got these and it's like. the
Mr.
middle-
Yannetti, just bring them up,
Sorry.
please.
It took me a while to figure them out, but anyway.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's the third line down.
Third line down. Yes, I see it. I don't recall. This
Okay.
was a long time ago. Thank you.
And you say that having seen this record, it does not refresh your memory that you spoke to Courtney Proctor for.
Don't, it does not refresh your memory. That's where you have to be.
Did Courtney Proctor tell you the day of my client's arrest on February 1st that she had been discussing the case with her brother that day?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you speak to Courtney Proctor that day in any fashion?
What day exactly?
Day of my client's arrest on February 1st of 2022.
That was on the sheet you just gave me?
It was.
Well, I did, obviously, if it was on that sheet.
Okay. And when you talked to her, did she tell you that she had discussed the case with her brother?
Objection.
Sustained.
Were you notified that Karen was going to be arrested?
Objection.
Sustained.
What did you discuss?
I don't recall.
The next day, February 2nd of 2022, was the day that my client was arraigned back in Stoughton District Court. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do.
You spoke to Courtney Proctor 3 times that day before my client's publicly televised arraignment at 9 a.m. Did you not?
Again, I don't remember.
After the arraignment, you spoke to her again for 27 minutes, beginning at 10:58 a.m. Did you not?
I don't recall.
Okay. So your testimony is, well, strike that. My client's arrest was pretty big news in Massachusetts, wasn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
You were aware that my client had been arrested, correct?
Yes, I had seen it on the news.
You were aware that she was being arraigned the very next day, were you not?
Yes.
This case involved your family, did it not?
How do you mean it?
Well, you knew that John O'Keefe was found dead on your brother-in-law, Brian Albert's lawn, correct?
Correct.
So necessarily, your family was involved in this case, correct?
Somewhat, yes.
And you knew that ultimately you'd probably be talked to by investigators from this case, correct?
I assume so, yes.
Right. Didn't happen for 13 days, but ultimately they did come, correct?
Yes.
All right. So this case had to have been pretty big news within the Albert family, was it not?
Well, yes. Yes.
You were discussing it with your husband, correct?
Yes.
You were discussing it with your other relatives, correct?
Yes.
You were discussing it with your friends, correct?
I don't know about my friends, but
okay.
Yeah.
So is it your testimony that with all of this going on, you confined your discussions about this case just to your specific family members?
Not necessarily.
No, I mean, clearly you would have talked to Courtney Proctor about it, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. So folks, why don't we end here? All right. Ms. Albert, you'll have to be back tomorrow for your classes. And jurors, the 3 cautions, please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into the case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about the case,
very abrupt ending.
We got 30 minutes till 1 o'clock.
That's perfect for me. I get a shower.
Jurors, just pulling in your notebooks and leaving.
I did text Judge Bev. I'm like, look, is there any way we could cut this a little early today? I got to get showered for law and crime. And she's like, okay. So thanks,
Ooh,
Judge
look at that.
Bev.
Look at Karen smiling. Wow. Wow. That was something.
All right. So right when it was starting to heat up, right when we were getting some heated questioning and answering.
Why is she stopping there? 30 minutes to go. 30 minutes to go.
I don't know, man. One of those mysteries. It's like, and people keep asking why she's sustaining certain objections and allowing others in. I don't know, because we're not hearing the basis for the objection. I mean, it could be calls for speculation. It could be hearsay. It could be relevance. So like, we just don't know. And we know that she is allowing the defense to get into this third-party culprit stuff through these through these cross-examination questions. So I don't know how she's deciding what she's allowing and what she's not allowing. So, because a lot of the questions that she sustained seem pertinent to me in terms of trying to establish this relationship with the Proctors. It's important. I mean, it kind of goes to the heart of the case, because Proctor should not have had his hands on this thing at all. He should have been completely out of the investigation, yet he wasn't. As a matter of fact, he was the lead investigator on it. So I'm not sure why she's sustaining certain objections. And again, that goes to the fact that she's not allowing a basis for the objection to be noted on the record. So it's one of the frustrating things about this trial. So, there it is, but we have lots more with her. We haven't even gotten into certain aspects of it yet, but he's really digging into this relationship, and she seems evasive. She definitely seems evasive about it. If I'm the Commonwealth, I'm like, just own it. Just
admit to the shit that we know.
Right.
We know this stuff. It's you're not like, we have proof of this. Just same with Katie. Just admit to the shit, and it won't be as bad.
Especially shit that they know that they have receipts for. Because this federal investigation went down, where they're investigating why the investigation by Canton was so shitty. So that they got phone records. So they know that they know that. And if I'm Lally, I'm saying, okay. There's no, it's going to make you to be a liar on the stand if you're admitting or denying things that we know are factual. So it's kind of a strange decision. Again, like in terms of prep, you have to think that Lally would have been talking to these folks and being like, look, these are going to be issues. These are like, lawyers always know their bad facts, and you can't pretend that bad facts don't exist. You have to kind of, take them head on and try to, just try to deal with them. And, because it just makes the witness look not credible.
And front, right? Lally could have fronted some of the stuff. Hey, so this is a relationship. This is, obviously he's not going to go into as detailed, but like front some of it so it doesn't look like you're hiding it. Now it looks like you're hiding and you're being evasive. Why? Particularly when there's the defense's case is like there's a conspiracy. And now you're making it like you're hiding a conspiracy. Like
100%. So, all right, I'm gonna bounce. If y'all want to hang with us on Law and Crime, I'll be on there for an hour. Should be interesting, especially in light of the fact I don't know if they'll be covering some live of Chad's trial. But I'm assuming that we'll talk about this one as well. And then tonight, I don't know if Steve's doing another kind of primer of what went on today. I will schedule our Delphi thing before that, and then I will portal everybody into Steve's thing. So if Steve's going live, I'll check with Steve. They're live at 9 Eastern, so we will go live before Steve comes on, and then we'll portal you all over there. So keep an eye out for that. We love you guys. Thank you so much for hanging with us today. Thank you for being awesome as usual in the chat. Just the best chat in the business. I stand by that. I will die on that hill. Thank you to our mods for all your hard work. Thank you for all of you who were kind enough, generous enough to buy memberships, send money. It means so much to Jay and I when you guys do that. Absolutely. Really, really does. And Jay, I love you, man. Thanks.
I love you. Don't forget the Easter egg, dude. Don't forget a little Easter egg, maybe.
All right. So I'm gonna try to stick a scout in there and an Ajax, presuming we talk about Karen Reed. So you guys listen for it. I'll figure a way to sneak it in. My shout out to our peoples.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Love you guys. And I'll do the outro. Boop.
See you tomorrow morning.